It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Alex Lindsay joins Andy Iannacco and Rene Ritchie as we talk about the latest Apple news, including a big anniversary. We're going to celebrate it in a couple of days. We get a head start next on MacBreak Weekly.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 565, recorded Tuesday, June 27th, 2017, 10 years after. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by Capterra. Capterra helps you find and compare software solutions for your business needs with over 400 software categories, from accounting to workflow management. Visit capterra.com/MacBreak to start your free search today. And by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. Home plays a big role in your life. That's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. You can easily apply and understand the entire mortgage process fully, so you can be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. Get started at rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest news from Apple. And we've got the team, the whole team. MacBreak Weekly, assemble. Rene Ritchie's here from imore.com. Hey, Rene.
Joyeux Fête Nationale. Happy Quebec Day, Leo.
Oh, it's Quebec Day.
It was yesterday observed, but I'm bringing it over. I'm keeping it going.
What should we do for Quebec Day? Should we do this show in French?
Well, I think we eat a lot of poutine. Is like the only rational way to do this.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I managed to go to Canada for 4 years and never have poutine.
Ah, Leo, you're the one. You're the one that got away. We got to fix that.
I had Tim's Bits.
McDonald's yesterday, I went in to get a coffee, and this giant sign said new Mac poutine with bacon and 3 cheeses, and it stopped the world.
That sounds like a plot out of Ottawa to kill everybody in Quebec.
But what a way to go.
What a way to go, ladies and gentlemen. Also here, Andy Iannacco from the Chicago Sun-Times. He's a diner aficionado of late.
Yeah.
The roller derby official photographer of Providence Roller Derby.
I now have my first professional sports photography gig. I'm locked in I've been hired as the tournament photographer in September for Providence Roller Derby.
How fun! And
I have to do it for real now. It's like, no, this isn't for fun. No,
I know.
Why did I screw myself up that way?
Takes all the fun out of it, doesn't it? Yeah. And Alex Lindsay is joining us from his lair. Where he has.
It's very dark back here. It feels very dark when I look at it here.
No, it looks good. No, it looks good. Yeah. You have the soundproofing behind you.
Yep. And so that it sounds good, because
it sounds great.
But it sounds good.
Plus, it looks like you could be playing the harmonica with that microphone.
I know. Great.
Apparently, Helpless Corgis in our chat room is telling me there's a great place in San Francisco for poutine called Salt House.
I actually had poutine in Paris, which was quite nice.
You had poutine in Paris. Is it a French dish?
No, it is made in Quebec. How dare they?
Yeah.
I had poutine in Paris, drinking a caipirinha, watching the Steelers at a Steeler bar right by Notre Dame, which is the most culturally confusing.
Well, we stole Notre Dame, so they can have poutine.
I have to tell you, I am a caipirinha fanatic now.
Yes,
I drank when I was in South America. I started with pisco sours because I was in Peru, but by the time I got to Ecuador, it was all caipirinhas all the time. They're Brazilian.
So good.
Oh man,
it's so good.
Rene, I feel like I have to apologize. There was a brouhaha because there was an article in Boston Magazine, I think, about how apparently poutine is a thing in Boston, but it turns out that we seem to define it as a bunch of stuff piled on top of any other stuff, as opposed to what the Canadian correspondent referred to as, quote, real poutine, unquote. And so I have not had it myself. But I apologize on behalf of my country.
Sending the Mounties. That's it.
We are. I beg you. We are still a simple Puritan fishing colony as we were founded in the 1600s.
We'll take care of that, eh? We'll get that poutine sorted out right away.
And because Rene is a patriot, Apple and Apple Canada highlighting Canada's, well, is it Canada or Canada's favorite?
Oh, how embarrassing.
Canada's favorite 150.
Rene is going to excuse himself for the
Rene.
next 50 minutes.
Renee. I mean, it's your own.
My only saving grace is an American wrote that article. So that's all.
Really? Joseph Keller's an American?
He's
That's
from Ohio.
Funny. He doesn't know how to
I think
spell
he did it on
Canada.
purpose. He's probably trolling me.
I always spell it Canada.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
We'll also take a look, Canada.
Canada. So what are Canada's favorite apps?
There's, I'm blanking on the name. I'll find it in a second with you. There's a running app that's amazing, and I'll get it before we finish the show. But he designed this running app for people who got lost a lot, which is exactly me. I could go outside. I've lived here for 20 years, and I will get lost. And it gives you, it just through your headphones, it gives you directions for running. And it got taken up by the accessibility community. And people have been writing to him saying, like, this is the first time I've gone on a solo walk or a solo run in 15 years because they now have low or no vision. And he's just been rolling with it and increasing the utility of the app. And now there's people everywhere who you go to a foreign city, you don't really know your way around, you're at a hotel, you just plug it in and you go out for your run, or you have low and no vision and you just turn it on and you go for your run. And there's story like Screens, Luc Vandal from Quebec, Napkin, Guy English from Quebec, and there's Alan Pike who does the wedding DJ app and the party DJ app, which will not play Nickelfish no matter how much money you give him from BC. I mean, there's tons of talent here. They're really amazing.
Is this Run Go?
Sketch Party
Are you talking
TV.
about Run Go? Is this the one?
Run Go, yes.
Yeah, because it gives you turn-by-turn voice directions as you run.
Yeah.
What a great idea. That is
So many.
There's an example of how having a computer in your pocket can really
It can literally change lives.
change your life. Wow, that's great. So that's like the descriptive audio they put on movies.
But for running.
But for running. On your left is the Canadian,
Turn
torch.
left here. And again, they're athletes who something happened, they had an injury, or they just, they had the macular degeneration, something that stopped them from running, and now they can do it again.
Starting Fairmont Waterfront Seawall Run. Head west on Canada Place. Turn right onto Seawall.
Don't hit that guy on the left. I wish it could do that.
We're getting there, Leos. When everybody
Turn
has a
slide
sensor,
right
they'll
and up
do
the
that.
stairs.
So, but if you had low vision, this would be great. I mean, you probably wouldn't want to do it if you're
Olympic Cauldron on
completely
your
blind.
left.
That's neat.
Finish at Fairmont Waterfront.
Is that awesome?
I've done that route, but I've never actually run it.
Yeah, me neither. I remember walking there slowly.
Yeah, it was enough to walk it.
Yeah.
Cool. Like actors and singers, there's so many of the apps that you use that you don't realize are Canadian.
We did on iOS today. We had an Australian school group in here. We did all Australian apps, and there's a huge number of Australian apps as well.
Russell Ivanovic, maker of Pocket Weather,
Right.
Pocket Cast, yeah.
A ton of them. So iOS 11. I want to mention Erica Sadoun's article. Erica, did she used to write for Ars?
Or Tua.
Pardon me?
Ars Technica and the unofficial Apple weblog.
Yeah, she's great, and she's a developer and a UI guru.
Wicked smart.
And wicked smart. Wrote a article about iOS 11 in which she bemoans the new app switcher, or what is it called? The context switcher. Let me.
The app switcher.
App switcher. Let me find the why I utterly loathe the new app switcher. So as you know, when you double tap the home button on an iPhone, on iOS 10 or an iPad, it puts up kind of a menu of previous applications you can scroll through. If you don't want an application, you can swipe it out. So she says that's a perfectly usable, and speaking of low vision, that's a very easy to read. You get almost a full screen of whatever was running that you can see what it was, and so you could quickly go to it. She says they've replaced that in iOS 11. Now, I don't normally report on this kind of stuff because iOS 11 is a beta.
Yeah.
And it may change, although it's my sense now that it's a public beta, it's not going to change a lot, right?
They made a big deal about the new app switcher at WWDC on the stage, though.
Okay.
So they might tweak it, but I don't think they'll walk it back.
So here's a screen. I don't have iOS 11, but here's a screen grab. And I know you're using it, Rene, so you can confirm or deny. This is the new... So
yes.
Part of this is to make the dock accessible, right? And that's so you can drag stuff to apps in the dock. Is that right?
Yeah, so the dock, you can pull it up from anywhere now. Anytime, any place, whether you're in an app on the home screen, you can pull up the dock. Also, it's got Control Center built into it now. There's no longer a separate Control Center, and Control Center is customizable.
But
so
look at she points this out. This is crazy. She said, I don't even know what this is. the circle with the dot in it, and she says, "Look there's clock apps just randomly spread around."
So you can change all that. The big problem they had with the previous version of Control Center, like the original Control Center had very limited amount of buttons and people kept asking for more. So last year they made a 3-paned Control Center where you pulled up and then you swipe either left or right to get to the now playing or the home screen. And based on their data, people just weren't using it. Either they forgot about it or they never knew it was there. And as a result, they didn't access all those features. So they went back to a unified Control Center. On an iPhone, it just takes over the whole screen. But they have, it's like, again, you add features, you add complexity. They have too much stuff to fit in that one big pull-up gesture from the bottom, because now it's got to be the dock, the fast app switcher, and Control Center. So they sort of compiled it all into one page. So the right-hand side is totally customizable. If you hate those clocks, you can get rid of those clocks.
Oh, so you can
use screen
you can
recorder
drag these around. That blank one is just ready for something else.
You can't drag them yet, which is ironic, given it's a big drag and drop release. But you can go into preferences, and then you can, and there's a screen recorder too, so you can put on a screen recorder, record your screen in iOS. Put in any apps. I have the low battery, not on iPad, but on iPhone, I have the low battery icon there because I use it all the time. And then what's nice about the left-hand side, though, is it's not just apps anymore. It'll show you apps, that's all you have. But the minute you make those side-by-side, the split view apps, it'll save those screen layouts. So if you always use Notes in Safari and another one is Files and a web browser or something, it'll keep those so you can go back to the apps you're using, but also the sort of like the desktop spaces like on macOS.
So that one of the tiles here will end up being a layout tile.
Yes.
Now, she also says, you saw how easy it was to swipe an app away to get rid of it. She says now what you have to do is press and hold, kind of like deleting.
I don't like that as much because it is slower. Like you have to hold on. It jiggles. You get the X and you can kill it, and that is slower. So I wish you would just be like the cards where you could fling them away still.
Although a number of people pointed out in her comments that, well, you shouldn't be killing apps that way anyway. You don't need to do that. But there are times when you do need to kill an app.
If Apple cracked down on big apps like Facebook and Snapchat who abuse background APIs, I would happily not kill them.
Right.
Make a deal right now.
Yeah. I've got a banking app that uses Touch ID for sign-ins, and then of course I sign in to do the one thing I wanted to do, like move some money between accounts. And then it's done. I don't need to do it again. Then the session times out, and 15 minutes later, it's by the way, we needed to sign in again. So I don't know. I don't need to do that. So yeah, sometimes you need the ability to swipe away. But I don't have the beta installed. But one thing I wanted to check was, is there a way that I can switch Bluetooth devices or switch Wi-Fi devices by press and hold or doing deep touch on the controller?
Nice.
That's the one thing that I think I can't. I really think that Apple needs to put in a way to simply very quickly switch from one Wi-Fi network to another or one Bluetooth device to another. It's the one thing where switching into settings makes me feel like somebody on this planet has occurred to them that there must be an easier way than going into settings to switch from the auto connected to Wi-Fi to something else I wanted to do.
No, sadly, if you 3D touch on those icons, you get an expanded view that also has like AirDrop and personal hotspot and cellular data and stuff. Yeah. So it just gives you more options, not deeper.
It's such an obvious thing. Yeah.
Even on Android, though, Andy, it's they've gone back and forth. Now you can long press and go to the settings, but in the past, it's confusing because if you short press, it just turns Wi-Fi off, and it's this is a UI challenge. And I'm not going to diss Apple too bad because it's clear what their goal was is to get everything on a page.
If you do it too quickly, people think people accidentally hit it. If you take it too long, they think it's broken. They bring their finger off. And
right. I mean, and so this is a busy context switcher, but you're getting everything on a page, and I presume this isn't live. I can scroll to the right on these pages.
Yeah, you can scroll. And all I meant is that you can't layer too many actions behind one button, but you can make smart choices about what those actions do.
So Erica's point well taken, but I think it's not going to change. I'm thinking maybe now I should install on this new iPad Pro. I should probably install iOS 11.
If it's an extra device and you don't depend on it for anything mission critical or like making emergency phone calls, then test away.
But it's not unreliable, is it?
It's a beta, and it's the second beta. And sometimes, let's say the second beta was great, and then the third beta has a huge problem. So it's a path you should only go down if you really don't depend on it.
And is there a way to go back? Can you change your mind?
Yeah, back up completely, make a complete like iTunes level encrypted backup, and then you can always roll back to it if you want to.
Okay.
But you'll return to the point where that backup was made. So again, if it's a critical device that gets new data all the time, you probably don't want to do that.
And
don't use your main device.
What's the process of installing iOS 11 on your iPhone or your iPad? Do you
get a certificate now. So you go to not develop for the public beta. You go to Apple's beta page, and then you get a certificate. You install that on your iPhone, and then when you go to or your iPad, and then when you check for updates, it'll give you the beta as an update, and from then on, it's the regular update process, which is nice.
Okay. So iOS beta software program is beta.apple.com.
Yeah.
And there's the iMore article on how to do this. So if you
also
want
Joe
to.
Keller.
If you want to. I'm just wondering, I mean, this is my only, the 10.5 is the only new, but it feels like this really was designed for the new iPad Pro. And
you get angry at the Mac for not doing some stuff as well as the iPad is now doing it after you're running it.
I mean, we said this before the show, but I'll say it again on the record. The more I use this 10.5-inch iPad Pro, the more impressed I am with speed, smoothness, color accuracy on the screen. It is subtle, but it's a real pleasure to use. Alex, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just got mine a couple days ago, and it is the best iPad that I've had. I mean, it should be. It's a new one. but
a lot of times these are kind of incremental improvements. This one feels. It's funny because I think it's all designed, as you pointed out, Rene, and I've given you credit for your insight. This is about ARKit and about the fall. So you're not really seeing everything. That's one of the reasons I'm thinking about iOS 11. But you can see they've put so much.
Enjoy that 120 hertz right now.
Yeah, they've put so much into this thing. This is like a Volkswagen with a Corvette engine. I mean, this is a way overpowered device for what it does today.
Geekbench is like forget MacBook Airs now. It's like MacBook Pro, like not too old MacBook Pro level.
And I feel like it's the first time where I started drawing on it, and it was like it's just like paper. I mean, at this point, it doesn't feel like mentally. I had to like reset myself with any iPad of going, it's a little sluggish, but it's really, really close and better than anything else I've seen. To now, it's just like, it's just right. It's like drawing or sketching, and it's just.
You use it, so you're using the pencil with it for your work or your.
Yeah, I'm not an artist. I mean, I am. I do 3D and everything else, but when I draw, it's mostly me giving people feedback and drawing on things and updating things and signing things and sketching out ideas, but I don't usually.
Well, but see, that's another good use. You don't have to be an artist. It's another way to express yourself.
It's so much faster. I mean, I sit there and type all of it, or I can just circle it and write on it, like I don't like this, or I don't like this, and also just little like boxes of we're going to do this, and then it's going to go here, and rather than going into something that's will eventually happen, which is going to look cleaner, it allows us to sketch out ideas, and I think that's to me the primary use of the pencil for me is just having something that I can quickly sketch out an idea. Or write down ideas really quickly that I still can't type quite as fast. So,
what program do you use for that?
I'm testing a lot of them. I have to admit that my favorite one is still the Notes is the best. Yeah. It's just the
Apple's own Notes app.
It's even better in iOS 10.
Yeah,
iOS 11,
is.
Sorry.
Well, I haven't seen iOS 11, but the iOS 10 version of it, it's got this one thing that a lot of them seem to hide somewhere, which is delete everything, like erase all. Is something that a lot of these sketch apps, it's like a thing you have to think about how to get to instead of just I just want to hit a button, like I just want to clear the page and go back to what I was doing. And it seems like that is hidden in a lot of them. For more refined stuff, I've been playing with paper, Sketchbook, from Autodesk is another one that I like to use a lot. But they're all different. Some of them I want to go full screen because we're using it for something else, that where we use it actually in a show. So it just really depends on what we're doing. But my go-to one is still Apple's Notes. I still think it's the easiest one to sketch out ideas anyway.
In iOS 11, it's got instant notes, so you just tap the pencil to the lock screen. It takes you right to notes. You can do handwriting inline with typed notes. You can just push the pencil in; it'll open up a space for you to do an inline illustration, or drawing inside. You can hit a screenshot, and it'll automatically let you mark up a screenshot. If you're in Mail, you can tap on a PDF or another document. It'll pull up the markup stuff and let you automatically mark that up. So you just use it like someone sends you a design comp. You tap it, you start just putting in things you want to change, you share it back again. It's really
well, and I find that people will Slack me. We run, like, the company is mostly run on Slack, and people will Slack me something, and then I feel like I have to go to my iPad to respond because I have to take the Slack and I take the picture and then I open it up and I draw on it and then I push it back into Slack and I do all that because I can't draw on my screen. Not that I'm bitter. But,
So, of course, Apple's going to be the first to make apps that are designed for the new iPad and the new OS, iOS 11.
Yeah.
But are there other apps already coming along?
I saw Procreate for iOS 11. It was amazing. It was, I think James said it's like 4 times faster because of Metal 2.
Oh, interesting.
Or 10 times faster than it was on OpenGL.
Wow.
And
that I believe, because that's not fully OpenGL's fault. Apple's OpenGL implementation is not the best in the world.
Although OpenGL is still a very thick stack and Metal is a very thin stack, so it has less to go through. And Apple's doing some really smart stuff with Metal too, is they're getting as much of the CPU and as much of the software out of the way so that when it engages, and that's really important for VR when you want super low latency, they just get as much of everything out of the way as possible and let you speak directly to the GPU, which is really nice. I
downloaded and have been playing with Affinity Photo. That's pretty good. That's pretty powerful.
It's like finger painting with deformation mask, Leo. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's really the UI is completely opaque, but I have to take the tutorial. But Serenity said she feels like she could do everything she does in Photoshop now on Affinity Photo, $20 program on the iPad.
You know, there's been a move even among professionals, not so much for the iPad version, but for the Affinity on the desktop, where we're seeing a lot of pros going, tired of paying for what they're paying for Photoshop, and not feeling like they need the stuff that Photoshop has that Affinity doesn't have. And for me, I use Affinity to edit VR pictures because and I don't know if it has Affinity Photo on the iPad has it, but on the desktop, you can go into a VR, you can go into a 360 mode and look down at your tripod and then do a clone tool and paint it out.
Yeah, I think it does have that on the
yeah, and so that's a
iPad
super,
well.
I mean, that's the only place that I know that I can do that easily. And it's something we had been asking for 20 years.
This Affinity is done by the same guys who did Serif, which was quite a good, although not quite Photoshop, but quite a good inexpensive photo editor. But you're using it on the desktop. That's really interesting.
Well, I use it, again, I've been using Photoshop since 1991, so it's not like I still do things in Photoshop because I just don't know. It's not that Affinity can't do it, it's just that I can do it really fast in Photoshop. So, but I'm slowly using Affinity, and the number one reason I use it, again, is because I'm editing VR photos or VR videos. So the biggest problem you have with when you're shooting VR, of course, is the tripod that held the camera up, and getting rid of that. And it's something that we've been dealing with since 1994. So being able to paint that out, easily and be able to just simply clone it out is a big deal.
Yeah.
So anyway, I haven't seen anybody else. There's been lots of tools that kind of do it, and there's lots of things that can kind of make that work. But we haven't seen anything that really just makes it easy to flip it in, paint it out, flip it back, and you're not losing quality or anything else. You're just doing it through a viewer. Anyway, so it's been Affinity the Affinity Photo has definitely been something that we're starting to use more and more.
One of the things I really love about Affinity is that it's one of a new generation of apps that doesn't try to take an existing app and make it and figure out what 20% of these features are going to be relevant to the iPad. Although there are great apps like that, this is an app that says, what if we wanted to make something that's as capable as a desktop version, but it's going to be within the context of a tablet computer or a mobile device, and that's what it does. There's one of my other favorite iPad apps is Graphic by Autodesk. They bought it from another company, and it really is just as simple as can possibly be, while still being so powerful that this is one of the reasons why when I'm in my hotel room the night before I'm giving a talk, and I suddenly realize that, these 11 slides could be replaced with just one graphic and one piece of text, and I'm bashing out a graphic that combines a whole bunch of things. I'm using this app called Graphic that will take me about 10 minutes to do, whereas even if I had my Mac with me, it would probably take me 3 times longer because it's not really as fine focused towards that one thing you want to make it do. So yeah, that's why I really do think that in 2017, if your next, even if there's any computer that you want to buy, I think that an iPad should be part of the decision tree, because if you have not taken a look at it in the last couple of years, you will be surprised at how powerful it is, how fast it is, how useful it is, and the fact that you're used to just a tablet computer being something you toss to the kids in the back seat so they can watch videos and shut up while you drive. It's now really almost a desktop class experience, not just for speed and power, but also for what you can do with it.
That is worth every penny.
And you're going to pay as much for an iPad once you get a keyboard and a pencil and you buy Rene's 29 watt
get you.
adapter and the Type C to.
That's how they get you.
It's
Leo.
going to be as
And
much
the
as a laptop. It's
sensor and
yeah. I mean, you at that point. However, how much lighter and more portable is it?
Yeah.
So that's it. I have a friend who's been using the convertible windows for a long time, and he got the iPad, and he said like this to me is a real convertible because it feels like the small one. It feels like a tablet. It doesn't feel like a computer trying to be a tablet. No fan, nothing. And then you put in the keyboard, and you can kind of sort of do what you would do on a laptop. So if you're more inclined towards the tablet end, it is not a replacement, but it is a good alternative.
Yeah, so I brought a laptop and the iPad on my last trip. And I'm thinking, this is probably the same kind of calculus a lot of people are going through. Could I get away with just it's so much lighter. Could I get away with just the iPad? Especially if for me, that the biggest issue would be photo editing.
I think you definitely can.
Absolutely.
I think it's gotten there.
Yeah.
Especially with the new Pro, and maybe, but my next trip will be after iOS 11 comes out, I think. So
we have definitely people in the company that are not using laptops anymore. Now,
Wow.
I still have. I'm too old or something. I've just been doing computers too long. I feel like I have a hard time not being able to get to my files.
We've been talking about this for at least 2 years, and as Apple's drifted away from Mac OS and Macintosh computing, and we've been presuming that their plan was at some point to kind of migrate to iOS and iPads, and if you can get all the stuff, all the functionality into an iPad, it probably would be preferable. I think we're getting close. I mean,
I will leave them before they leave us, Leo.
Well, and also, I'm more convinced now playing with 10.5, and I'm going to put iOS 11 on it tonight. I think that's for sure. I'm more and more of the opinion. This is Apple saying, "Look, this is where we're going." This is really quite an impressive piece of hardware at this point.
Yeah. No, I'll go even farther. I had to. I need to rebuild and proficiency on Windows 10. Because I've never been like a really daily user of it.
You bought a ThinkPad too. Good man.
I found a company that had this like B stock ThinkPads.
Always the best to buy. Always the best to buy one of the like a T240 or something. Yeah.
Right.
Upgradable.
This isn't a decision. Oh my God, this is so much better than anything else I've been using. Again, it really is that I realized I should really add that more to the mix. And so my little office rule has been that now when I leave the office for the coffee shop, I'm not going to take the iPad. I'm going to take the Ultrabook with me instead. Again, so I do the stuff I need to do, but also it'll drill more Windows 10 stuff. And boy, do I miss my iPad because for the stuff that I like to. For the stuff I like to do, like out at a coffee shop for 3 hours, or I'm going to be spending 2 hours on the train to the city and back and stuff like that. It's just so much more direct with the iPad. It's so much more focusable with to be able to just do a very, very simple, instinctive split screen between the two. I think that Windows 10 is wonderful. I think this is a really, really lovely laptop, even though it's like 2 years old at this point. But I really, really would, if I had to choose one of these two to take with me forever, it would definitely be the iPad and not an Ultrabook. I think the same would go to a lesser extent if this were like a MacBook Nothing. I think I would prefer the MacBook Nothing to this, but I think that I would prefer the iPad, especially the 12.9 inch, to both of them.
It's happening, isn't it? So, is it time to just kind of get over it and we've moved through denial and.
Well, I mean, I have to admit that I also just got the new iMac for my house, and it's still great.
Are you going to buy a $5,000 iMac Pro?
Yes.
You are. Well, of course you are.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that it's.
But will you buy it and be happy?
He's going to buy a $17,000 iMac Pro.
Yeah, but wouldn't you really rather have a cheese grater than
yes,
an all-in-one?
I do. I think what'll be interesting to see is how far we can push it using the Thunderbolt 3 interface. So I think that a lot of the things that I would prefer to have a 3U rack mountable Pro, like get rid of the circle stuff and just let me just shove something into a server area. I mean, that to me would be very valuable. But I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. I think it's time probably to say, especially with iOS 11. All right, it's obvious now.
I think that
the future of computing from Apple's point of view is iOS.
But I think
that's crystal clear, though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'll make this really quick. I think that faith is not a good thing to go on the Mac right now. I think that I really want to see Apple demonstrate a lot of enthusiasm for the Mac, or at least the same enthusiasm they're showing for iOS. With iOS, their eyes light up. They get excited. They get animated. You could tell that they really want to tell us about the next 3 or 4 years of iOS that they've all planned out. With the Mac, I'm just not seeing the same level of excitement, and that's another reason why. Again, if you've got $1,000 in your pocket to buy your next real productivity machine, if it's a portable thing, really seriously take a look at the iPad. And if you don't think it's as good or better than a new MacBook, absolutely no problem, get a new MacBook. But this is the time where you really need to start making that decision. Really,
I feel like I bought my last MacBook.
I wouldn't be. We've been through this. I feel so too, but.
Apple was pretty careful with their language. Tim Cook is always really careful with language, and he said that the iPad Pro is the purest expression yet of Apple's belief of the future of personal computing. But that's personal computing, and I think that's why we're seeing them double down on the Pro side.
You still need Macs. No, and software still
iMac Pro.
Xcode is still a necessity, and I don't know if Xcode will ever make sense on an iPad, frankly.
As I said, I still keep coming back to the whole statement about the Mac during WWDC was, we think the Mac is the greatest computing platform ever for writing apps for iOS on.
Yes.
Like, wait a minute.
That says it right there.
I mean, that's only when you look at the Swift Playground, you know that's a short-lived issue, and I think that really for 90% of the population, maybe you could argue even 95% of the population, there's no reason to have a desktop computer or a laptop anymore. I mean, I just don't think that. I think that it's more of us being modal and not able to convert. But I think that it does everything that 95%.
Although
that's an interesting question, because here's my line of thought that if I have bought my last MacBook, I have not bought my last Mac, because now my thinking is that if I can't get a MacBook that I personally like, maybe the next thing, what I should be thinking instead is to buy a super instead of $2,000 for my MacBook, which I buy every 2 years or 3 years, I will spend $1,500 on the absolutely maxed out Mac Mini. And it will be this wonderful desktop home, and I will still use my iPad as my rover, as my excursion unit, so to speak, because my MacBook Pro now spends most of its time docked to a screen, docked to a hard drive, docked to peripherals here in my office, and when I have to unplug it, that's a rare thing. I have to really have a need to have all those ports and to have a file system outside of my office in order for me to do that. So maybe it's not so much abandoning the Mac so much as maybe they're saying that we've got a better field computer in the form of the iPad, and for something that's got to be socked down to AC, why not go overboard and get something with 81 cores and 16 teraflops of processing power to blink the cursor while it's waiting
for your machine learning, Andy.
Yes.
Dieter Bohn has a good article also addressing this issue of how do you pack desktop power into an iOS device. And he says, keep it simple, but as simple as possible, but no simpler. And he too has the screenshots of the kind of complex new UIs. But I think he's of the opinion that this is kind of this is the compromise you have to make.
It's also really weird because they made most of the UI much informationally less dense, and they used those new big headline fonts on the top of applications, and they made the text bigger and bolder again. Like a lot of text is really bold now, and you don't fit as much on the space, and it's really only Control Center where it got heavily information dense again.
He says he disagrees with the approach, but yeah, I mean, I'm just going to have to use it and see. I feel like this. I mean, look, it's clear what Apple's intent is, and now the question really is, can we live with it?
It's like using Windows like shuffling cards. You just pick them up off the dock and throw them where you want them.
Well, and it's interesting because Microsoft's done kind of a similar thing, but they've really hedged their bets, saying, well, we're going to do a desktop operating system that can be used as a tablet, and it's not a good tablet experience. I don't think it really isn't. So.
It depends what you're using it for. I think it's a nice hybrid. I think it's I think as a pure tablet experience, I don't think it can touch the iPad. But I like the idea of saying, well, what if we're not going to tell you that you shouldn't use multi-touch anywhere? Again, this one of the reasons why I did spend $500 on this Carbon is that it does have a touch screen. And even though this is really absolutely emphatically a keyboard and trackpad sort of operating system or device I'm using, I mean, it doesn't fold back or anything. The number of times where I'm just sitting like at Starbucks, and rather than using the trackpad to scroll, I just want to have my thumb on the screen, holding it a little bit by the side.
It's very natural.
Click. And the number of times where I just need to tap I'll see the button in front of me, and Pavlovian, there's a response to just reach out and tap.
No,
it like
I'm not. I think touch belongs on the desktop. But if you were to detach that screen, which you can't do on that ThinkPad, but you can do on a lot of devices, including most of the Microsoft devices, and then try to use it as a tablet, it's tough. Those touch targets.
Yeah.
What you like, and I agree with you, is having a hybrid where you can use a mouse, you could use a keyboard, you could use touch, and you use whatever's appropriate at the time it's appropriate. And I completely agree with you. I mean, I used my ThinkPad on this trip, and I fell in love with it. It's a great computer. I'm very happy with it.
And also to be fair, I'm not a typical user. I'm kind of a nut, so I will spend $2,000 on a MacBook and also spend $1,000 on an iPad.
Most people have to choose. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got $1,000 to spend on everything, and if they can get a convertible that will give them 70% of what you would get out of a conventional tablet, that's a bonus for them.
I would look at people like Mike Elgin who would use it exclusively a year ago or 2 years ago. We had Larry Maggot. There are a number of people who were just
Federico Vitici.
Yeah, and I thought in order to do this, you have to suffer a little bit. You have to struggle a little bit. And I just don't want to struggle or suffer. But
mankind is born into trouble just as surely as the sparks fly upward.
But I don't think it's going to have to be a compromise much longer.
I still think that rather than one becoming the other, there's a lot of smart companies working on what replaces all of them, and that'll be just a small mother box device that knows everything about you, has all your connections, and then whenever you come near a screen, it just moves your environment over to that. They become endpoints, which a lot of companies have been talking about for a while. Like they talked about thin clients. I'm holding this size piece of glass. I'm holding that size piece of glass. I'm in my car. I'm at my desk. I'm helping. You're out with your watch, and it just sort of manages everything about you and happens to know what control schemes are available depending on the device. It's I detect a mouse, I detect a keyboard, I detect multi-touch, I detect voice, and just it all works. And that sort of feels like where all these companies are headed in a few years. Maybe a few years.
I think
that's 5 years.
That's a few years off at least.
Yeah.
I know. When it can't figure out which version of a song that I want to play when I say okay, that I feel like we're years away. I mean, it's
the
just
future
like
is pain.
we have all of those devices in the house that I'm constantly testing, and it's just that the simple things that's getting wrong that it makes me feel like we're probably a long way from that future.
But I think Renee's correct to predict this because that's the trend, right? Is ubiquitous computing, intelligence everywhere. We're at this point still, for really not good reasons, tying the UI and the physicality to the computing, but there's no reason that you have to do that. So I like the idea of you carry with you computing power, but it uses whatever interface is available. We haven't yet seen a very good implementation of that. Microsoft's trying to do that with Continuum. Samsung has its little box. I played with it for a little bit that you connect your S8 to, and you have a screen and a mouse and a keyboard, and that's not it either. It needs to be a little more fluid than that.
But it's far away until it's here. It's like autonomous,
Well, when it happens, it'll happen fast, I think. And I think that's really what people want.
And the good news is that there's the three of the largest companies, or all of the 5 largest companies, Microsoft, Google, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon, are all competing in the same space. So that's a good reason that we're all probably going to get something or a lot of it, because they are all trying to take that space and spending billions and billions of dollars to do it.
Well, let's talk more about that in a bit. We've got lots more to say. Annie Anako's here from the Chicago Sun-Times. Alex Lindsay from the Pixel Core. I'm always thrilled when I can get you on, Alex, because your unique perspective as a power user is really valuable for us. So
well, thanks. I always love being on. I'm just trying to fit it through the...
Oh, I know. You got a job. The rest of us are not really gainfully employed, so we could show up every Tuesday.
Well, governments don't rise and fall if we're not there.
Have you been... That's Rene Ritchie from imore.com. We were watching House of Cards, and there's this back stair that all the really interesting stuff in House of Cards happens in this back stair in the White House. And we're watching it the other day, and Lisa says, I think Alex Lindsay's been on that back stair. Have you been on that back stair in the White House, or can you not talk about it?
I don't think I can comment about what I've seen there.
Are you there right now, Al?
There's a lot of stairways in the White House that go pretty deep.
We all know the cameras have been banned from the White House. Alex has been totally screwed with that area of his business. He's now he's now as
He's
an
drawing
agent for
hangouts.
sketch artists.
I don't think you'll be doing hangouts from the White House for a while.
No, I haven't had a lot of action in the White House.
Our show today brought to you by Capterra. We frequently, when I do a radio show, when we do any show, one of the things people are always asking, emailing and calling is, I need software to do X, Y, or Z in my business. What do you recommend? And I have to say, I can recommend sometimes one or two things, but I can't talk about the whole range of available stuff. And a Google search, it's kind of not the right way to do it either. So if you're tasked to find software for your company, whether it's customer management, e-commerce, medical office management, church management, help desk software, I got to tell you, Capterra is the way to do this, and it's absolutely free. You go to capterra.com/MacBreak. That way they'll know that you saw it on MacBreak. That's all I ask. And you're going to see, well, let me just do a demo. Pick a category for your business. I don't know, what do you want to keep track of? Let's say you're Dr. Lindsay, and he's trying to run his medical practice, right? Now, I just clicked one button, and I'm getting the top medical practice management software products. This is a complete listing, plus independent user reviews, vetted, so they're quality reviews by people who actually used it. But then look on the right at the way we can filter this. I could say, look, I only want to look at 4-star and up. I want to look at, is it web-based or installed? No, it should be web-based. What do you need to do? Do I have multiple physicians? Yes. Do I want to do patient billing? Yes. Do I want to do, it's got to be HIPAA compliant. And then filter the results. So you can narrow it down to the stuff you want. And then, watch this. I'm going to add, okay, Orchestra 1, Athena Collector. This looks good. I'm clicking the comparison. See at the bottom, take away the lower third for a second, just so you can see what's happened as I click that. I'm adding them to this comparison. Now I'm going to press compare, and I'm going to get a chart comparing the 4 that I was interested in and the features, how it runs, what features. This is incredible, and this is all completely free to you. 400 categories of software. I mean, everything. App development, business continuity, content marketing, file sharing, human resources, web analytics. More than 30,000 software solutions, 400-plus categories, and hundreds of thousands of verified peer reviews and ratings from users just like you. 200,000 ratings and reviews. And they really work hard to keep track of these reviews to make sure that they're valuable. This is fantastic. I just want to let you know about it, and it's free. There's no obligation. You don't even register. It's just a better directory. Don't Google and hope to find the right solution. You do what you do. Run your business and join the millions who use Capterra every month to find software solutions for their business. Look at this. I love this. So here's all the church management programs, most popular programs, most affordable programs, most user-friendly programs. This is what you're looking for. Capterra, CAPTERRA.com/MacBreak. Just keep this in mind. This is what you've been looking at. You got to do a help desk, right? Well, what's the best, most popular help desk software? Here's the ones that users like the best. Right up, just save yourself time. Boom, manage engine. Boom, boom. Or say, well, no, I want to know more. Let's find out some other features. I love it. Capterra.com/MacBreak. We thank him so much for making MacBreak Weekly a reality. Alex Lindsay, Rene Ritchie, Andy Anatko.
So I have an actual question for you. To get the public beta on my iPad, I haven't done this for a long time. I usually stay away from the betas, but I go and I'm logged in.
On the iPad. You got to do it on the iPad.
With a registered developer account.
I've done with a registered developer account on the iPad, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm already registered in.
I'm going to do it right now. Beta.apple.com.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there's the article. And you
show you
down,
download.
and you sign up. And if you're already a developer, which I am, I'll sign in with my Apple ID. Okay, I won't do that. Actually, I will do that, but I won't show you. I won't show myself doing that. How about that?
Secrets.
Then it sent me like the little code that I have to
Oh yeah, you're already way ahead of me. Yeah.
It should give you a certificate to download, or does it give you a code with the public beta?
No, it gives me a. It gives
Are you
me
doing the
how do I
developer beta or the
participate.
public beta, Alex?
I'm in the Apple Beta software program.
Okay, so that's the public beta.
And
If you have
I've
a
already
developer
logged-
account, you can grab the developer beta.
Well, I have a developer account.
Well, okay, that's a good question. Which would I prefer? If I'm a developer, should I use the developer beta, or is it?
I mean,
better
if
to
you're
use
a
the public
developer, the
beta?
developer beta typically gets updated a few days earlier than the public beta. So if you're impatient, it's better to use the developer beta. Also, the developers get a beta. They're one track ahead. So public beta 1 is developer beta 2.
But might
So
it be a less stable?
It may, in fact, from time to time, be less stable.
So you have to
you're living
decide
2 weeks in the future.
How
Yeah.
much you want to be in the future?
But they'll be the same now. I mean, because public beta 1 is developer beta 2, so developer beta 3 will be public beta 2. So it'll just be a few days later. So maybe they'll catch a showstopper they didn't catch, but that's rare.
Okay. So I've made my backup. Now I download a profile, beta.apple.com/profile.
Yep.
This is the certificate you were talking about.
Yes.
So it's signed by AppleCare, profile signing certificate, verified. So this is the prerequisite. After this, it's easy because once I do this, it will then push an update. It'll say, "Oh, you have a system update." So I'm installing this profile. It does require a restart. That's interesting. Wow, I've never installed anything on my iPad that requires a restart. That's hysterical. That's but once it reboots, now if I go to my system settings under general update, it will say, "Oh yeah, you have a new version." Okay. I don't.
And then from then on,
I
it'll
think
alert you when
Alex
there's
is probably
updates
in the
to it.
developer part of it as opposed to the.
Well, no,
public beta.
I was in both.
It'll give you a certificate. It's the same kind of certificate you get for both of them.
Okay. Guess what's Thursday?
It's a big
Bon
anniversary.
anniversaire.
It is a very big day. Thursday, June 29th, 2007. Actually, it wasn't a Thursday
What happened,
then.
Lino? What happened?
We got our iPhone. We waited in line for hours and hours and hours and hours. We'd heard about the iPhone in January at Macworld Expo. We'd stood in front of the plexiglass case with the guards on either side, looking at it. But it was June 29th, 10 years ago. I remember getting in line here in Petaluma at the AT&T store. And it was actually not too bad. It was about a 3-hour wait. What's cool, in the Apple lines back then, in fact, that one especially, if you were in line waiting for an iPhone, you were a cool person. I mean, I met 2 guys from Google who had been up all night making, I think it was Google Reader or Gmail work on the new iPhone. And it was so cool. We all had our little, seats, our little, ballpark chairs. And I waited in line and I was praying because I knew, it wasn't an Apple store. I was praying that AT&T had enough, but I was like 16th in line. And yes, I came out with this. God, it looks small and thick at the same time.
So small.
So thick.
It's beautiful, though. I mean, it's just iconic at this point.
Oh, yeah. It was skeuomorphic.
And I was
Photo-
talking on the phone on my Trio because that's what I had before my iPhone.
I'm waiting in line. I'm going to get this new thing called an iPhone. And then remember that picture of Scott Bourne? We should have gotten Scott on the show today. He's been very nostalgic.
Forstall or Bourne?
No, Bourne. He's been very nostalgic in the last few weeks on Facebook, posting, pictures of him getting his new iPhone and, how he had the most popular at one time iPhone podcast in the world. And, it's so cute.
Did you see when Scott Forstall said he never heard the word skeuomorphic? For him, it was photo illustrative and metaphorical.
Yeah. You did, by the way. Thank you. You did a great summary of that video at the Computer History Museum. John Markoff interviewing all these great people. I'm at Scott's page, see if he has that picture of him.
His iPhone vest.
His iPhone vest, yeah. Wow, there it is.
Yeah.
10 years ago, I was hosting the most popular iPhone podcast in the world. Everyone was telling me I was crazy. They said the iPhone was a fad and would never take off. Scott was a believer. He he knew, and he was so excited. I want to find that picture of him coming out of the store, holding his iPhone up high. Remember that?
Yeah. Oh.
Tell me your story, Rene. You were in Canada, so you couldn't buy it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I couldn't. I was stuck on a Trio 680 and a Trio Pro or something, just looking at the rest of the world. We're looking at the U.S. with abject jealousy.
I brought one of these for Amber MacArthur. This was probably a few months later when somebody had cracked it. So
that's when I got mine. Yeah,
you could use it in Canada on Rogers or Telstra, or not Telstra. That's Australia.
And it was $200 for 100 megabytes of data in Canada back then.
Yeah, I brought it up to her. She never used it. I found out later. She liked her BlackBerry. She wasn't going to use it.
I think Blackberries were the last holdout because there was a lot of reasons that people used their BlackBerry and
also Canadian.
We still see it. We still see them a couple times. You see them in some government areas.
I traded in that was my last smartphone before the iPhone was the Pearl, the BlackBerry with the Pearl.
Oh, yeah.
What was your story, Alex? How did you get your first iPhone? I remember sitting in WWDC with you and Scott.
We were excited.
Today we're announcing 3 new products. We already went through that in January, but an internet browser, what was it? An internet device, a music player,
widescreen iPod,
and a widescreen iPod.
Well,
and a phone,
and a revolutionary phone, a breakthrough internet communicator.
And I was like hanging on
a widescreen iPod.
My old phone wasn't working. I was like, I am not buying a new phone because Apple's releasing a phone. They're going to release a phone, and so I'm not going to buy a new phone.
Nobody believed it.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. I had the angriest I ever got with AT&T. Got me into such a state that I had to literally hang up the phone after 2 weeks of trying to solve this problem with them and thinking that I really feel the need to cancel AT&T. But this was like 8 months before the announcement of the iPhone. And I said, the best information I have right now is that AT&T either has already signed a contract to be the exclusive carrier of the of the Apple phone, or they are very close to it. Andy, are you willing to cut off your nose to that extent so you're going to have to sign up with AT&T again sometime next year to get the phone? Or are you going to eat mud on this issue, pay them the $75 that you are absolutely not required to pay them for, and extend your contract for a year, which you are not required to do? Yeah, okay, fine. I'll have to eat spit. But I want to let them know that it's because I know that they're getting the iPhone. That's the only reason why I'm putting up with this garbage.
Andy,
oh boy, was it hard to do.
Alex Lindsay, who was on? So this is MacBreak Weekly number 46, June 29th, 2007. We called, the name of the show was iDay. It was Merlin, I know, was on it.
Yeah.
Alex was on it.
Netcasts
you weren't on it yet, Andy, right?
From people you trust.
I guess not. Oh no, I was on that show.
Were you? Well, it says so, but that's because
MacBreak Weekly, episode
okay,
46.
sorry, maybe not.
Yeah, ignore this.
29th, 2007. iDay.
Let me skip ahead.
Alex Lindsay is here from Pixel
I have an
Board.
iPhone.
He has an iPhone. Scott Bourne is here from ApplePhoneShow.com. He has an iPhone. Merlin Mann is here from 43folders.com and the Merlin Mann Show. He does not have a phone.
No,
But he did a great segment about the iPhone.
He will now
Omni got him one later, didn't they?
representing the holdout.
Curmudgeon.
Yeah, not necessarily curmudgeon, just the holdout. And
Not
I think there are
curmudgeon.
quite a few
Yeah.
holdouts. I think a lot of people, in fact, it was my advice to anybody who isn't a fanatic, a lot of people did hold out. Say, wait for Generation 2. Is that what you're waiting for?
Generation
I think,
2.
yeah, exactly.
Well, this one actually may be not bad because this does not do 3G, right?
Yeah. Remember that it didn't do cut and paste. It didn't have apps.
Didn't have an app
It didn't-
store.
It had a keyboard. It had the first all glass fake keyboard that if you'd used it, you were shocked and delighted at how easy it was to use. If you had not used it, you're going to be like, I'm spending $450 for a phone that doesn't have a keyboard. Okay.
Well, also,
So it was hard to.
It
was
for the
revolutionary.
longest time, I couldn't type my name on an iPhone.
It didn't have Brick Breaker.
I
put in
kept
passwords.
having to tell people the secret is to don't think, just type.
Yeah,
don't think, Just
the screens
type.
were
It will
too
figure it out
small,
for you.
and it just never Laporte just never came out right.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it was very hard.
The person who invented autocorrect is the same person who created Internet Explorer, Dean Hachimowicz from Microsoft.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I have to say that launch day was a little bit heartbreaking for me because whenever people try to understand exactly how excited people were about the iPhone, I tell them about how, look, I had a briefing right after the keynote in January where it was introduced, and I got to like hold one of what must have been, I now know were like only like 2 or 3 functioning iPhones and use it unrestricted, and it was like, what news from Gallery? You actually touched the hem of Jesus? What hand was it? Can I touch? What hand did you hold the iPhone as? Can I touch that hand as well? And I'm like, oh, the scrolling was smooth. It was like the waves of a calm, tranquil ocean lapping toward the shore.
By the way,
I got so many meals off of that. That's how excited people were.
Oh yeah,
just to get stories of what it was like to use an iPhone was solid gold currency back then.
Just for your information, Alex, I restarted, immediately went to software update, iOS 11 public beta, 1.8 gigs. It's downloading right now. I don't know why
I restarted, and I've gone through both of them, and I must be in some kind of loop. I don't know why.
I don't know. It was very easy for me. Maybe a little too easy. I might
There's
regret
an anti-Alex filter
because I didn't back up.
Yeah, it's like, don't let Alex do this right now.
Not to list on a rat hole, but this is a timely place to. Did anybody see that video of that sports commentator who was trying to like live comment on the NFL draft or whatever, and he was using his iPhone to like make his picks or make his bets or whatever. He's live streaming all this, and he accidentally tapped the button. Yes, update iOS right now, and so his extremely valuable live stream continued because of him holding up the phone to the camera saying, yep, it's still updating, so I can't actually get any information or post anything.
That's happened to me many times during the show. I remember there was an update for Windows, and I forgot that the Windows machine I was using was the one I had a Skype call with Paul Thurrott on. And I said, oh, I got an update. He said, don't hit enter, don't hit it. We came back about 10 minutes later.
It should be like war games. Like 2 people have to turn virtual keys on 2 separate iPhones simultaneously before it'll go.
Here's the Mac Rumors article. Original iPhones, first 4 reviewers reminisce. This is, of course, the Mount Everest of tech journalists. David Pogue did this on CBS Sunday morning. David, of course, he was at the New York Times at the time. Ed Baig, who was at USA Today, Walt Mossberg, who was at the Wall Street Journal, and Stephen Levy, who was at Newsweek right at the time.
Apparently, Jobs kept calling them.
By David Pogue, tech critic for Yahoo Finance.
There's been a lot of talk about the soon-to-be-released iPhone.
It's got everything you need, all wrapped up in one.
The Apple Store staying open until midnight to meet the huge demand.
iPhone! 10 years ago this week, the iPhone arrived in stores.
And you have no shame.
The lines were better then, though, weren't they? There were fewer people holding places for Chinese resellers.
Well, it's also like now they made a conscious choice. Like Angela Ahrens doesn't want people to have to wait for the phone, so they do the orders right away now.
Like
the marketing team, I'm sure, would prefer the lines because it's huge headlines for them. But the store team does not.
This is fun. David's got an example of what it was like. Just so you understand what 2007 was like. Here's a full-page ad, President's Birthday Sale from the newspaper of that era. I mean, they were still selling cassette players and micro-thin calculators and $799
Those look old. I don't know. Is that really?
This can't be. This has to be earlier than that, right?
This looks like 1997.
Yeah, he's definitely going way back now. We had to look at maps. Remember that?
The iPhone, we've become a nation of distracted drivers, distracted walkers, and
David does a great job on CBS Sunday Morning. But yeah, those were the. So was the reaction universally positive for that first iPhone?
No,
Dieter, my old boss. I mean, he famously wrote, "It doesn't have apps, not a real smartphone."
Yeah.
But that's you can't really blame them for saying there are people who go out and they buy a phone not because they're excited about the latest gadget, but because I need something that I can place calls on, that I can receive calls on. I also need to keep up with my email and lots of furious text messages. And it really was a year or two before the iPhone and iOS was really fully built out. It got its occupancy permit 10 years ago this week, but it really wasn't a home to live in until about 2 years later. Again, no cut, copy, and paste. It took forever to just say I wrote an entire book series on how to get things working on an iPhone that are without mentioning it, are trivially easy to do on a Windows phone or a BlackBerry or on a Trio. I was using the best feature of the first iPhone for me was the screenshot feature, because that's how I would copy something to save it for later. Like there's a piece of information.
Wasn't that a diagnostic thing that Mossberg asked them to keep, and they never intended to keep it, and he said, no, leave this. Reviewers need this.
That's what I heard. Yep.
I think it was Pogue, but yes, it was Pogue. It was the Pogue feature.
It's such a funny story because, a couple things. One, I had a meter on iMore, a Dieter meter that would go up and up as Apple added features until it would hit the red real smartphone.
Oh, that's smart. You were working for them in 2007?
Towards the end, yeah, I missed the iPhone, but I started after that. But some of the stuff was just that Apple had never built a phone before. And for example, it had no MMS. And the reason for that is Apple's like, we have a real browser. We have Safari. We don't need a stupid WAP browser. And then it turned out that MMS is displayed through WAP. And they realized that too late to add a WAP browser.
Yeah. This is Kent Gurman had some guts. He republished his CNET review with annotations. The bottom line, despite some important missing features, a slow data network and call quality that doesn't always deliver, the Apple iPhone sets a new benchmark for an integrated cell phone and MP3 player. Yep. I guess because the iPod was so big at this time, you had to say, it's an MP3 player.
Well, and I think this was a really great phone until apps became something that you could add. And as soon as that happened, I think it turned into a platform.
Well, it didn't have stereo Bluetooth, so you couldn't, it
also didn't have a headphone jack, for heaven's sakes. It was for that stupid reason that we don't want something to disturb the bezel. They decided to inset the headphone jacks. You needed this little adapter, this freaky little tiny narrow deep headphone jack.
Yeah.
And that was like, oh, wow, that was an idiotic thing to do. But, well, hey, you have that nice little rounded angle. That's something, definitely.
It fit Apple headphones. That's probably all that got tested, Andy.
Exactly.
Kent also
why would you not want to use the beautiful Apple headphones? You're welcome.
Kent also said, wait for the next generation because it's so expensive. $599 for the 8 gig, $399 for the 4 gig. 4 gig iPhone. I guess 4 gigs was a lot in 2007.
Yep. If you're not running apps, it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And also remember that they dropped the price only like a couple months after they gave they gave Apple Store credit to people who had bought it at the original price. But the 3GS was the one that was the one for everybody. That was one where you didn't have to be an enthusiast in order to love this phone. It was and again, it's not something that really Apple should be dinged about. It really is. It's hard to explain exactly how complicated it is to build an entire new phone from scratch, which is what Apple was doing. Especially if you try to, it's one of those few things where you really can't impose a lot of control over the user, because this is still the most intimate device that you own. It connects you to people in a case of emergency, and it allows you to take an extra half hour for lunch because you know that you can keep on top of things in case of things back at the office where people can reach you. So if you decide that we think that it needs to be more secure, and by maintaining the sandbox, if we let people move a phone number out of, no. You mean that you can't do the simple thing that I need my BlackBerry to do on this new phone? Well, great. I'll see you in a couple of years. So it was a really hard thing to do, and the fact that they were able to, it really is like Tesla creating a car company from scratch. It's hard to explain exactly how hard it is for a company that is not in the business of building phones to suddenly have built a phone. So it was
so far ahead. In the end, it was so far ahead that if Google had not come out with Android, and you can understand Steve Jobs upset around that, but if they had not come out with Android, there would have been nothing left. I mean, it was just like I don't think anybody else could have or would have come up fast enough to have any real competition with the iPhone at the rate that it was growing. I do think that in retrospect, it's to Apple's advantage that Android is there. It eliminates all of their antitrust issues. It also continues to prod them along. So I think that it's good for Apple, but I think that there wouldn't have been much left if they hadn't, if Google hadn't put out a good solution that was not iOS.
To Andy's thing, though, I mean, like it was literally they had to get that out the door, and then once it shipped with iPhone OS 1.0, they went back and rewrote everything. They made scroll view, UI scroll view, and they made table view, UI table view, and they had no time to make apps. They had that team which went on a forced march. Like they had to race to that headline, a marathon of sprints, had to turn around and then start racing towards App Store for the second one, which is like running a second forced march. And they have small teams, and everyone had to be. Steve Jobs had to personally disclose everybody who was on that team. And one of the funniest stories was Nitin Ganatra when he was saying that because Steve was sometimes not there, he had engineers who were trying to code things and they weren't disclosed, so they couldn't see the UI. So he had to go into the room and look at it and then come back and describe it to them so they could start engineering it. And it's almost a miracle that they got that thing shipped on time.
Yeah, it's like Brian Merchant's new book, The Secret History of the iPhone. I haven't read the full book yet, but I've read the New York Times piece and the excerpts from it. And the thing that really just gets to you to the heart is the engineer says, yep, that my marriage ended partly because of that year I spent doing nothing but focusing on the iPhone 24/7. And I didn't really have an option once I was on that team but to focus on this and give it 100% of my time. And hopefully these days people are better coached on, look, there's a reason. Go home at 7, go to bed at 1 a.m., come back to the office at 7 a.m., but go home at some point and give attention to your kids and to your spouse, because this phone is going to be crap in 5 years anyway, but hopefully you'll still have a marriage, you'll still have a family. So it's heartbreaking when you hear the behind the scenes.
It's all different now.
Recode did some great graphs that show you how the iPhone changes things. Here's one: voice versus data traffic in monthly bytes. Voice is basically flat. It's gone up a little bit over 10 years, but look at how data traffic has gone up. This is iOS and Android. This is all traffic over mobile. But it just shows you, I mean, the world has really changed. Photography, digital photos taken worldwide by device. The red bar is by camera phone, and this is only 6 years. Camera phones have basically taken over. 85% of all digital photos now from camera phones.
And none of that would have been possible if not for such a long list of ways that the iPhone changed everything. One of them being that, again, seems amazing right now to the idea that a handset manufacturer now gets to build the phone that they want to build for customers that they know are out there. Before then, the reason why, remember that AT&T was just stopped being singular, I think, for like 10 seconds after that. And they were not on the ropes, but they were clearly getting their clock cleaned. And the fact that they were the one company that was desperate enough to say, look, fine, we will let you build whatever phone you want. We will adapt our network so that it will use whatever features this phone needs to use. The idea of having extended caller ID and the ability to have like a navigable voicemail is something that was required support on the part of the carrier. But just the ability to run a web browser, saying no, it's not going to be a micro browser, it's not going to use a special WAP protocol or anything like that. It's going to run real web browser, which means that's going to put an incredible taxation on the network capabilities of the carrier, because no one has. That's something that Verizon was not letting manufacturers do, because they knew that it would kill their network. They did not have the capability, or if they did, they didn't want to have to find out about it. And because AT&T said, okay, we decided that we do want to be a successful company now, we will let you do that. That's how all these apps started to come out. That's why people started to actually rely on these things. That's why I can I can send a photo to somebody else without having to pay $12 a month for an extra AT&T photo family share feature. That's as long as I talk 10 of my friends into also signing up for this feature for the cost of $1.13 per photo, I can send photos to people independently. It's because Apple essentially browbeat AT&T into saying we will basically put this device on your data stream, and however the user wants to use it is totally up to them, and you're just going to have to build a network that can deal with that. It's lovely to talk about the designs, great to talk about multi-touch, but even just these simple business things about saying that Google and HTC and Samsung can simply build a phone that they think is going to sell, and it's up to the carriers to simply have a network that's going to support it well. That's the reality we live in, and that was not the reality 10 years and 10 days ago.
There was another great story from Forstall when he said that AT&T kept calling. They had no idea what the phone was. Apple would not tell them anything about the phone, and they would keep calling going, can you give it an email button? We heard that email is really popular. Can you give it a button that does email? And Scott would mess with them by going, we'll think about it. Maybe we'll roll that out in a future release. They go, oh my God, they're building a Lego phone. because their whole idea is hardware centric.
I will say the thing that I'm most excited about the book is it has lots of inside baseball stuff about how much the Motorola rocker phone sucked. The phone, a Motorola phone that could also play music off of an iTunes library and be synced like an iPhone, and how hated and despised this phone was, and how the story about Steve Jobs seeing it for the first time and saying, "This is utter garbage, and we have no alternative but to release it now." And the amount of influence that this phone design had upon them redoubling their efforts to not only make a phone, but make a phone that actually showed off Apple as a positive thing, not as a simple add-on service to a terrible, cheap plastic phone that doesn't really work very well.
Here's a surprising side effect. So what do you do when you're in the line at the grocery store? If you don't have a smartphone. Nowadays, you play, Candy Crush Saga for a couple of minutes or Clash of Clans. In the old days, you'd buy chewing gum and look through People magazine. Now, I don't know if there's a real connection here, but Euromonitor did a study, and this is the cumulative change in U.S., not chewing gum sales since the iPhone came out, and it's a plummet. It's gone from 4% down to negative 15% over the last 10 years.
An iPhone slapped its wings in Beijing.
It's growing yearly when the iPhone came out, and it's just nobody chews gum anymore. We don't have to.
As long as there's still children and candy in that aisle, I don't think that's.
I think that's probably a specious stat, but I like it. Thank you, Rico.
Now, gun sales, on the other hand, have been way up since the iPhone was released.
Yeah, so that's what I want to see.
Very flat.
Yeah,
it was very flat until the iPhone was released, and then it has grown by 60 to 80%.
You see. Media consumption. Look at that. It's gone up.
Those are the skins in video games.
Media consumption has been going up, but mobile internet media consumption has gone up so much that it's starting to rival television. 122 minutes per day on mobile internet compared to 164 minutes per day on television. But
it's a bigger global story because they don't have to build out the infrastructure anymore. Everything just went to mobile and to personal screens. And you just had to. You could skip that entire technology divide.
This is the year mobile ad spending will surpass desktop online ad spending. Not a surprise. And, of course, the biggest change, Apple, and the Apple business model. The top bar is in 2006, Apple's revenue, $19 billion, 40% iPod, 38% Macs, the largest chunk. 2016, it made more than 10 times more, $216 billion, 63% of that iPhones, 11% Macs. And if you wonder, why the Mac isn't getting the attention iOS is getting, that number tells it all.
Yeah, it's iOS in total. Horace Dadu put out a number, I think, last week saying that sometime this year, iOS will have generated $1 trillion in revenue for Apple.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Some nice job on that. Some really fun charts. There's more. I didn't get to all of them on Recode, how iPhone changed the world. Here from Ars Technica, the staff's favorite iPhone games from this is from 2008. There really weren't any games in 2007. So we had Dizzy Bee. Don't from Igloo Games. Don't remember that one. Motion X Poker.
Motion X.
I remember that.
That dice game got me through a year of having to wait for relatives in hospitals.
Yeah.
That was my fetish device for my fidget fetish device for the entire year.
Yeah, we didn't need spinner fidgets. We'd shake our phones to roll the die. Isn't that funny? Scrabble. Scrabble was quickly replaced by Words with Friends, though, right?
But those weren't on the original iPhone, right? Because there was no App Store until 2008.
Yeah, no, this is 2008. So these are more recent. So Hasbro, I guess, which owns the actual Scrabble trademark, was the only one able to make a real Scrabble. But frankly, Words with Friends completely eclipsed that.
Yeah.
I don't remember eye drops. This is Tetris, basically, right?
It was Trism was a big one too.
Trism, yeah.
And what was the monkey one? The monkey and the ball, Super Monkey Ball.
Super Monkey Ball. Yeah. There's Aurora Faint. This was actually pretty good. This was another Tetris, or
Enigma
more like a Bejeweled clone. Enigma, remember that? Where you'd make puzzles, you'd solve little puzzle problems. Here, let's see if we can skip ahead to him playing Enigma on the original iPhone. It looks like. Yeah, and you'd have to solve these little physical puzzles.
You know, it just occurred to me that the fact that the iPhone is so locked down means that I wonder if it's even going to be possible 10 years from now for them to have emulators online to preserve some of this cultural legacy.
Probably not.
Just like that right now, you can play Mac games from the 1980s online at Internet Archive because the source code is there. They could simply build a version of it. It sounds like you're trying to make fun of something here, but that is part of it. It is game design is an art. It is a form of expression.
I agree 100%.
It would be horrible if an entire generation of creative expression disappears because it was a platform that was so locked down. I hope that some accommodation can be made so that this stuff can be preserved forever.
We did a great
problem in general.
Triangulation with the guy who created a lot of the LucasArts games and then went on to do humongous games. I can't remember his name, but Ron Gilbert. But he said, I asked him that because Ron created a bunch of these games. I said, how do you feel about emulators? And he said, yeah, this is art. This is my art. I'm glad if people still play the games. Even Lucas might not be.
Nintendo might not be.
Nintendo might not be. But I'm glad because this was my art. This was a big creation. This was years of my life. And so I'm glad that people play them in emulators.
Do you guys remember before the App Store, Lucas Newman and Adam Bett did Lights Out or Lights Off, the first game that actually got running on native code back when like Hockenberry was working on Jailbreak and everybody else. There was some really good jailbreak apps in that first year before the App Store came out.
That. Yeah.
Yep.
Lights
Out.
Out.
Steve Stratton-Smith has taken that over, and now he puts it on everything that comes out. Like if a Nintendo Switch comes out, I'm sure he's ported it to that already.
I guess I could mention.
Remember how magical a jailbroken phone was, though.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, I'm using tethering. I'm actually sharing my data connection. What sorcery is this?
We got tethering before the US did. It was amazing. Like I think everywhere outside the US got tethering a year earlier because AT&T was so dead set against it.
It's still a nightmare, right? By the way, we should say it was singular when it first came out, right? It wasn't AT&T yet, or was it?
Yeah.
No, I think it was.
It was transitioning.
It was AT&T, then it was Singular. It was Singular when I had my brouhaha with the company. Basically, what happened was I had a Windows phone that I loved. It was like a Star Trek communicator. It wasn't exactly that, but it was like this beautiful phone. My old SIM would not work with the new one, and they needed to give me like a bigger SIM. And they said we're going to put you under a 1-year contract because we can't give you a new SIM without a new contract. I said, well, I'm off contract right now, and I was just offended by that. But yeah, so that's why that's burned into my mind. It was Singular at the time than AT&T.
One of the side effects of the iPhone was it created some YouTube stars, including a young woman we know pretty well, Justine. She got her new iPhone, and then she got her iPhone bill. It came in a box because AT&T at the time really couldn't figure out how to combine all those messages into a single line. So she had a page. I think this was Justine's first really big video, right?
I think it was
her going through her iPhone bill.
And I think she had been on
MacBreak Weekly. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
You introduced me to her. You met her at WordCamp in Pittsburgh or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was an uncamp, I think, that was for podcasting.
Yeah.
And she was in a couple of my classes, and she had all the right questions.
She said, "There's a young woman out of Pittsburgh you've got to meet. She'd be great on MacBreak Weekly." We did have her on very early on.
300 pages of a phone bill.
In fact, this is how old it is. TastyBlogsnack.com is the URL.
I remember that.
That was her, yeah. And then Mom Make Me a Sandwich, too, I think was one of her sites. So I think I'm paused because I'm only 40% battery on my iOS 11 install. I think I have to plug it in.
So I passed you. I went from behind. I don't even know how. I just kept on hitting things in the developer page until I saw a download button, and I hit the download button, and then I just kept on going.
It really is like trying to get foreigner tickets on Ticketmaster. Just keep reloading the page.
It is. I was like, a new button appeared. I was like, oh, there's a blue download button. I'll hit that.
I need John, give me a power supply. I've got to catch up with Mr. Lindsay here.
He's ahead.
He's beating me.
Pit stop.
Have you rebooted yet, Alex? Are you in?
I'm in. I'm installed. I'm trying to figure out where to use the cool sketch things that Rene was talking about.
If you're really adventurous, we tried to do it. We weren't able to get it to work before iOS Today this morning, but Apple TV has new firmware besides or you were just doing the beta, right, John? But there's also new firmware available for the Apple TV. Is that the same as the beta? Or is
so they're not really. They didn't really discuss Apple TV much at WWDC because they're going to talk about it more this fall. So it hasn't got a lot of attention. Just the Amazon Prime app, which is coming later, got some attention. But there's a new version. tvOS and iOS are basically the same build chain. So when you get a new version of iOS, you get a new build chain. Is the wrong word. Developers stop laughing. But they're tied together. It increments the same time the iPhone does. So there is a new version for it.
So you sign up to the beta software program on your Apple TV. You enable the public beta. Then you download it. And we don't know. I mean, Engadget says if you're adventurous, we don't know yet what new features.
And do you really need it? I mean, like if you're developing, you need it. But there's nothing in the way of transformative, at least as far as I've seen, transformative new features that you want to play around with it.
Actually, let me ask, because somebody sent us an email on iOS Today. By the way, that's our new time. I should point out, iOS Today has moved to right before MacBreak Weekly on Tuesdays. We start at 9 Pacific, 12
It's a power hour, like on old TV channels.
We thought, why not put all the Apple stuff together?
Yeah.
So Megan and I do iOS Today, then we do MacBreak Weekly on Tuesdays. That won't affect you if you download it. Although if you subscribe, you'll get the new iOS Today a day later because we recorded a day later. And by the way, we won't be here next week, nor will iOS Today, because it's the 4th of July. In the United States, we celebrate Independence Day on the 4th of July, and the network will be dark that day. We'll be back on Wednesday, and we'll be
fireworked and barbecued,
out
right?
of respect.
Out of respect for our Canadian neighbors. No.
We have Canada Day observed on the 3rd, so we'll already be barbecued and fireworks.
So you're smart.
So what we want to say is that, like, all of us, including like police, government, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, we're going to be at our homes having cookouts. We're going to be totally distracted. So Canada, you and your incredibly cool prime minister, don't exploit this to come down and take over and become our new government. Don't do that, even though you'll totally succeed. And
we'll be too bad
because you got to watch it. Evidently, they can hit us from there. I mean, you saw did you see the sniper shot from the Canadian sniper shot?
What?
As long as you're within 2 miles of the border, you're
the world
don't
record.
Piss off Canada.
The world
Don't say
record.
anything bad about China.
Okay, there's the top 5 sniper shots. 3 of them are Canadians. It just seems like this crazy thing that it is. The Canadians, they seem like such nice people, but I think it's partially because they don't like confrontation. We have
the biathlon to train with, and then we don't breathe very much because of the low oxygen and the cold.
But it's 3 Canadians in the top 5.
We're chill. We're mellow.
What I don't get is that it takes 10 seconds to reach the target. Is there like someone like near the target saying, by the way, could you stand in this corner and just like not move for the next 8.7 seconds? I don't understand how that shot happens. And we'll never know, of course, but I'm fascinated.
Well, it probably is not. It's probably not something you do in war. This is something you do as a demo.
No, this is.
A sniper shot an ISIS militant in Iraq last month.
So what happened was that they which is funny, by the way, the Canadian, the CNBC or whatever, the CBC coverage talked about it in terms of 58 hockey rink lengths.
Oh, that makes more sense in Canada.
Very Canadian, to explain this in hockey rink terms. But the it basically they have the snipers there. They saw a group was about one of our or Iraqi groups was about to be ambushed by ISIS, and they couldn't call a drone in because there were women and children. So he had to take a chance and and by hitting him, it was so far away they couldn't hear it. So literally, you got to imagine someone probably picked up and slammed against the wall, and it stopped everything because they didn't know where it was coming from. And from 2 miles away, it's a long way away.
I apologize. I thought this was
good shot, Philip.
I thought this was some sort of record-breaking attempt. This was actually a kill shot.
This was serious.
Yeah, this was
wow.
50 cal. That's an almost. I mean, it shouldn't have worked.
Is it luck? It's luck, right?
It's not. Well, it is incredible amount of skill and a little luck because of the wind and the curvature of the earth.
Yeah.
At that range.
Yeah.
So it's a long way away. I mean,
obviously he knew what he was doing, and he gave it every effort to make it work. But the fact that it also worked has a little bit of luck. Wow, that's amazing.
Sam Steele held the border without even a gun, Leo, just a stare in a red uniform.
Right. But he probably apologized later.
Yes,
because he's Canadian. Yeah,
sorry
about that.
Sorry, American, turn around. There's no gold rush for you here. Go out of the Yukon.
Wow. What else should we talk about? Anything else to talk about before we get to our picks of the week? I just want to. Have you watched? Has everybody watched now the new original Apple Music programming? I
know how that pitch works. We're gonna make app development sexy. I mean, I guarantee
it's beautifully
that
produced, but it's just not a.
Imagine,
I wish there was a better show in all that production.
It's so crazy. It's the idea. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
You have to be a member of Apple Music, right?
I'm just saying that they lost me the moment. They lost me the moment I realized that, oh my God, this is really happening. They have to give a 30-second pitch while actually riding an escalator.
Yeah, that's a little
and
weird.
they have to finish the pitch by the time they get to the bottom. It's like,
an elevator would be claustrophobic, Andy.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean,
and it gets worse.
And they Sherlock that guy. They Sherlock.
Well,
that
that's
guy
the really
exactly
sad thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was hysterically funny.
Yeah. Apparently, the guy who was showing off an AR app had put his heart and soul into the whole thing, and then
the entire for the whole episode, like they're going to show now that my mentor has gotten on board, she's going to explain to me, well, maybe we should just use the AR technology and license to other people, and people will sell it to catalogs, will sell it to, and so because no one can duplicate this. It's so hard to do AR, and I'm like, oh dear. Oh, honey.
So it's Jessica Alba, Gwyneth Paltrow, Gary Vaynerchuk, and Will.i.am are the judges.
Yeah. And they don't make any point of like why any of these people are qualified. I mean, I'm not saying they're not qualified. I'm saying that they don't. At least in Shark Tank, they start by saying this person started with nothing and now they have their own real estate empire. This person was a cleaning person and she decided to start selling things on QVC. It's like, okay, so they understand something about the business that they're trying to build for these people. It's like, I designed a really freaky looking car that's based on a DeLorean.
Well, Alba has a very successful honest cosmetic line for Gwyneth Paltrow's Goop.
But they don't explain what do they understand about software development and app marketing.
Right? Really? Here's the escalator that you have to ride.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
and Gwyneth Paltrow has Iron Man armor. So,
but it was what was crazy is that the production value is 3 or 4 times as good as Shark Tank, which is based on over and it was, I mean, I will say it was incredibly well executed, but literally by a third of the way in, I literally had to shut it off because it made me so angry watching it. Like I just couldn't get past.
Not the production value is not as good. It's really, really awful. It doesn't understand that someone walks in, they give a pitch. You don't need an elevator. You don't need a special light up floor that says who's interested and who's not. It really is going to be about these 4 people talking to this would-be entrepreneur about their product or their service and why they should, how the deal should be structured. This is the least interesting articulation of this idea possible. It's a perfect bingo. They could not have made this less interesting.
Right. No, and what I'm saying is the production value from my perspective is the
He's talking about the cameras, the graphics.
The graphic,
I think what you're saying, Andy, is the design of the show is a failure.
Well, and also they don't. You can't. You can make a fascinating movie about how hard it is to, as an independent developer, to bring something to market. What is that documentary on 2 documentaries on indie game development? I think it's called the Indie Movie or the Indie Planet, something like that. And it's fascinating watching these people inside their homes, but working with the focus of the team making the iPhone to try to create this amazing games, and that's where the interest is. And they're not even really showing the difficulty of building an app and finding an audience. It really is about the fake meeting they're going to have with the investors that they're going to be lined up later on, saying we decide that if you're going to pivot. You see, they use the word pivot to expand our audience and then market profile. It's so they could not have figured out a less interesting way to have a show about about people who build apps.
Actually, the truth is, I thought that when I first heard about it, I thought this is not good. This kind of trivializes what's involved in app development and popularizes it in a way that's going to not. The good news is nobody's going to watch it. It's not going to be a mass appeal show.
Well, I think
it shows how hard this is to do, frankly.
Yeah.
There was a Wall Street Journal article today that Facebook is going Hollywood, seeking scripted TV programming. It's not just Facebook; it's Apple, Facebook.
Well, Apple hired those two Sony guys, right, to start running.
You can throw money at this stuff, but maybe the Sony guys will bring the expertise that they need to do something. But you've got to think Apple had good consultants.
Hire Alex.
Yeah, hire me. I think Netflix is probably doing this the best. Netflix and then Amazon are probably, and what they're doing, I think in a lot of ways, or what has been reported that they're doing, is they're really going to creators who are in the business but not the business that you would traditionally get them from, and say, okay, what's your passion project? What do you want to do?
There you go.
What do you want to create?
And then you let them go. You let them do their thing.
And they've been really successful at that, giving them not the level of crazy control that typically comes with Hollywood, but going straight to the Hollywood studios and asking for that, gets more of the same into it's new wine in an old wineskin, at that point. It's not going to give them what they need, and I think that there's a lot of people who are on the fringes of Hollywood that would probably serve a lot of these guys better, and that's what I think Netflix and Amazon are doing a better job of getting than the other. I mean, because you have YouTube, Apple, Facebook. It's never been a better time to pitch your own content.
Yeah, and that's not how Apple works, though, right? They really I think they want more control, and that's the
I think Apple will have a hard time doing this because they're not going to want to do what's required to let these guys run with it. I mean, maybe they will. Maybe they'll figure out that they could but I think that they're going to be so worried about brand and so worried about what it looks like as an original. I think that those are the things that are going to be very challenging for Apple in a way that they aren't for some of the other platforms.
Well, look at YouTube. I mean, they've spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to generate original programming and not gained any traction.
Well, I think that YouTube's challenge is really that first they really try to leverage their their YouTube creators. The problem with the YouTube creators is that they're really good at their medium. Giving them more money didn't necessarily make it any better. It was really good at utilizing what it had. I think that they've had trouble taking that.
PewDiePie with a Hollywood budget
didn't make it any better. And I think that was one of the big challenges that YouTube's had. It's also had a hard time with. I think that they've had a rough relationship with Hollywood, and so I think that it's harder for them to make that work as well as some folks that are coming in a little bit more new. So
it's not an Apple story, but speaking of Google, it is probably the big story of the day. The EU has fined Google $2.7 billion.
Billion or euros? Oh, dollars. Okay.
$1 billion for antitrust actions because the search engine stacked the deck in favor of its own comparison shopping service, Frugal, which no longer exists.
That's the worst part. It's like it's no longer there, and you're getting punished for it.
Yeah. I understand why, and I've said this, I've been critical of Google. I don't like seeing Google, for instance, get into content because there is some they're a search engine and they're a very powerful entity, and there's probably some temptation to favor their own content. So I can understand the issue. But this is, well,
it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
That's all I got to say. No matter where you're coming from, that's a lot of money.
Even for Google, that's that's a month's income.
Apple would have to sell iPhones for another 3 quarters to make that kind of money.
Well, as I think one of the challenges really is as the digital world becomes the digital world. As we start moving away from oil and hard certain things into all digital goods, and this becomes more and more important. I think that there's this collision that you're seeing between the European sensibilities versus the American sensibilities versus the Chinese and Russian sensibilities. And all of these things are just colliding. And these companies are kind of in a no-win situation in a lot of ways, because they're going to be pushed to go one way by America, pushed another way by Russia, pushed another way by Europe, and in those seeming requirements. And I think that's going to be one of the big challenges over the next decade as these companies figure out, and as the world figures out, how you're going to manage something that doesn't have borders.
It's more than double their previous record. They fined Intel €1 billion in 2009. Gosh, interesting story. I'm sure talk a lot more about it on TNT, and tomorrow on This Week in Google. It'll probably be the story of the day, and I'm sure Jeff Jarvis will be incensed. In fact, he's already called it Euro Techno Panic.
It would just be hilarious if Larry Page showed up, opened his wallet, and just casually handed out three $1 billion bills, and then just drove off.
Yeah, and then a moth flies out after that.
Yeah.
Can I have my change in $10,000 bills? I need to tip the sky cap on the way home.
And as long as we're talking, tomorrow, I think maybe day after tomorrow, I'm going to get my Amazon Home. It's shipped. We're starting to see reviews.
You're talking about the Echo? The new
what's it called? Not the Home, the Echo
Show.
Thank you.
I'm gonna call you on it because I have mine coming too.
Yeah.
Middle of the night, suddenly Alex is in your bedroom. Hi, Leo.
Leo.
Some pretty positive reviews, actually.
Where'd you get the Scooby-Doo underpants? Can I buy those? Are those on Amazon?
$230. It's got a camera and a touchscreen, and Gadget called it kind of a crappy touchscreen, but they also said they use it quite well. So the show is, I got two because I'm going to send one to my mom so I can talk to her over it, because it'll be a lot easier way to do video calls.
They're going to sell a lot of them for that kind of reason, for people who just need to keep an eye on people who are 1,000 miles away. That's going to be a big deal.
That's actually why I got three.
You got
one
three?
I got one for myself and one for my both sets of parents. And,
nice.
For ours. And so
because you travel a lot, you're not going to bring it on the road with you, I hope.
No.
But you can use the Amazon, I'm not going to call it by name, but the Echo app to make those video calls to the show, I think.
That's $1.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet, but I just testing it as far as the hardware goes. That's what I'm going to be playing with to see how well it works as far as pulling the family together.
Yeah. I'm all in on Echo. I really, I love it. Although I'm looing forward to buying Apple's. Now that's
point
the
it
one
away
called
from the
Home,
bathroom,
right?
people.
The Home Hub.
Please, when you set it up in your house, they'll point it away from the bathroom. Just save yourself that.
I think. Well, Lisa's already spoken to me about it, and I think it's going to end up in the kitchen.
Yes.
Yeah, our Google
Just
Home.
Remember that when you get your midnight snack.
Yeah. Well, I'm also going to turn off. There is a feature they call drop-in.
Yeah.
Where you can just go look and see what's going on.
I was watching Leo's fridge at midnight because I was bored, and all of a sudden, bam!
I don't think I'm going to make sure drop-in is disabled before we set it up. Anyway, we will have our take on that Saturday on the new screensavers. I think a lot of us are getting. Megan's getting one. I got one. I think one of our producers, Jerry's, getting one. So we can make some phone calls. The screen is a terrible screen, 7-inch, 1024 by 600. But
I think the danger is always that for cutting the corners too much is then you have Apple just come in and they say, hey, we're not going to cut the corners. We're just going to make a really great one. And then it turns out they sell almost as the same number, just with higher margins.
I'm actually really worried
quality.
about the Home Hub. I have a feeling that I'm going to be replacing all of my Sonos.
Yeah, don't. I don't.
That would be hard.
What's the secondary market for Sonos speakers?
Yeah, quick.
Well, except for the sound bars, because the sound bars, there's no sound bar from Apple yet.
Yeah, I think there are no losers in this, because there are people who are going to be very, very happy with their Apple HomePods, and then there are going to be people on eBay and Craigslist who are going to be very happy with their $30 Sonos gear.
Yeah. Because if it does, I mean, you're the only one I know who's heard it, Rene, but if it does what everybody says it'll do, especially the ability to buy multiple pods and have them pair.
It just doesn't do home theater yet. So if that's what you want.
Yeah, no, I have a pretty nice home theater setup. I'm not going to replace that. I think it's just, maybe, again, in the kitchen, perhaps in the bedroom, maybe a pair or three.
But I can just imagine this technology, if they add like Dolby Atmos support, Apple, you could do that. You could have like the 9.1 or the 13.1.
They plan on doing that.
Yeah.
And the
they
technology,
don't have to do all that computation. Yeah.
Technology exists. That's not such a hard thing to do.
Yamaha has a soundbar that does
Right.
Atmos. It just uses wall reflection.
Right.
Just saying, Apple.
Just saying. All right, let's take a little break. Tiny little. Can't talk. Let's take a tiny little break, and when we come back, gentlemen, put together your picks, if you will. Picks of the week coming up in just a second. Our show today brought to you by Rocket Mortgage from Quicken Loans. You know, it's interesting. I mean, to me, the selling point of Rocket Mortgage is completely online. That is all I need to hear. But I think it's important to emphasize that it's more than just putting it all online. You want to go to a mortgage lender you can trust. You want a process that is transparent, that gives you all the details so you know you're getting the right mortgage for you. Of course, you want it to be convenient. It's not just online, but because Quicken Loans is so big and they've partnered with all the financial institutions, chances are you can submit the pay stubs and the bank statements, whatever paperwork you need, without actually going through any paperwork, just by the touch of a button. So whether you're buying your first home, your 10th, or you're refinancing, Rocket Mortgage is going to do all the analysis based on your income, your assets, your credit, and analyze all the home loan options for which you qualify and find the run that's just right for you. And it's going to do it fast, it's going to do it easily, and it's going to do it transparently. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, and then mortgage confidently. Easy enough to get started. Just go to rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak, rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. And by the way, to me, this is important. I want to emphasize this. This all happens in minutes. Because the last time we bought a house, it literally took months. This happens in minutes. Equal housing lender licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030. The fastest, easiest, most transparent, best way to get a home loan or a refi. Quicken Loans and Rocket Mortgage. rocketmortgage.com/MacBreak. Alex, you haven't been here in a while. I bet you have a few expensive picks you'd like to share with us.
No, I don't actually have an expensive pick, but I have I've talked in the past. I mean, we're kind of obsessive about weather because of what we do, live streaming. You're worried about it raining. You're worried about thunder. You're worried about all kinds of other things. And so dark sky, of course, is what is kind of our go-to app to make sure that.
Yeah.
Another one that we've started to use a lot is Radar Scope. So Radar Scope is really just gives you it's just an app that just shows you basically the radar for just about anywhere, and you're actually getting a lot of the data that you don't get necessarily as clearly on dark sky. So
I love their tagline: "Professional radar for the average Joe."
Yeah, exactly. Now, it happens to be very clear here in San Rafael right now, so there's not a lot to see. But if you go over towards, you can see that there's near Antioch or Rio Vista, there's a lot of storm going on right now, and so but anyway, it's cool if you like to see the weather going by. I think that it's a really fun app. And the other thing I just want to say is that we've already talked about it a bit, so I'm not going to talk about it. But I love my new iMac. I have spent the last year and a half complaining about Apple's hardware, but I just wanted to say that I haven't had a desktop in my house for 5 years.
Now, you didn't buy the iMac Pro. This was something that was
just the new iMac. Yeah, the updated iMac.
Is this 7th generation Intel?
Kaby Lake.
It's Kaby Lake, okay.
And it's just a pleasure to work on, and so I wanted to have something that I wasn't tempted to pick up and move, to be honest. I was, I just wanted something that's going to be sitting there. It's going to have my storage. It's going to have my photos.
I love that 5K display. Mine's a couple of years old, but I just love that.
Now, what do you use as a third, as a?
I have a couple of old cinema displays that I just put on the left and right, and that way you get a 3. I have a 3.
The LGs work, I think, on this one now too.
That's the 5Ks.
Yeah.
So this has enough horsepower. It could drive 2 5K monitors. That's nice.
And which 5K monitor do you use for that?
I have the LG 5Ks. Mm-hmm. The new ones have fixed that annoying Wi-Fi problem. They don't have Apple design, but they have the identical panel to the iMac or to the previous generation iMac.
Yeah, I just live with not having a 5K display on the left and right, just one in the middle.
Because I have a lot of the Dell 27-inch 4Ks, which
you can use those. That's fine.
A couple of those, yeah.
Because you have what do I do? I have Thunderbolt, a mini display port, and I can't remember, but I have an older one and the new one, and it works out fine. You have to daisy chain stuff, but Thunderbolt daisy chain's fine. Yeah. So tell us the specs, just so we know. Curious.
Oh, I don't know.
Did you go for the top of the line everything?
I didn't load it up with RAM or the biggest hard drive it could have, but other than that, so it's got 32 gigs of RAM, and it's got one terabyte flash drive.
That's actually nice that you can put that much RAM in it.
Yeah,
you can
well,
boot camp it and run 5 games.
It was 64. There's a 64 gig option.
Yeah.
I was like, I do not need 64 gigs of RAM.
Well, you would maybe boot camp or not
maybe,
boot camp, but
I didn't. I decided I didn't need it. 4.2. I got the 4.2 quad core, and the one.
Oh, you did upgrade to that. Okay.
Yeah, and that's about the price.
And I would not get a Fusion drive. I'm just not crazy about Fusion drives. And now with the
once you go SSD, you can't go back.
Yeah,
I know. SSDs or SSDs. I mean,
and a terabyte's plenty because you're going to have external Thunderbolt drives.
Well,
anyway.
and a
I'd
terabyte
rather
was
it fail externally.
Yes. Me too.
Well, I've really moved to not keeping a lot of hardware, not keeping a lot of the important stuff on the computer. So I want it on an external drive. I want to be able to pick that up and take it. I want to be able to back it up. I don't want it to be tied up in the same thing. So 1 gig is really there. Or the 1 terabyte there is there for me to use as scratch drives and stuff like that. I'm not going to put real data on it or keep it there for any long period of time.
You've had the 5K, the older 5K, I presume.
I did not.
Oh, well, no wonder you're happy.
No. The last piece I've been on a laptop pretty much because I've been on the road. I mean, most of my time has been on the road. So I've been on. I haven't had my own desktop machine. I mean, the company has lots of desktop machines, of course, but I haven't had one that I'm using since my cheese grater. So wow. it's been 5 years since I've sat down on it, and so it's like it is just like this beautiful thing that's in my desk. I love it. So anyway, but and I'm going to use one of my iPads as my Wacom tablet. And so
that's a good idea. In fact, I didn't point that out when I was playing with Duet earlier. You can use it as like a touch bar with the laptops, right? You could get not only as a Wacom tablet, but you can also get the touch bar. Is that right?
I haven't tried that. I've just started to test it with just using it, and it just works really well. And that was someone that we were working with just loved that experience. So I've been kind of sold on that. So I'm kind of trying to build kind of a nice thing at the house now that I actually have an office. My wife had taken most of my office away when I moved the last time. So now I'm kind of moving in. So
it's back. Yeah. 5K iMac. Well, you said it wasn't expensive. That's like you just spent $4,000.
It's good. It's a good computer.
It's well spent.
I'm actually going to use the horsepower.
No, we know you are. We know you are.
So, I think that it would be a waste to load it up would be a waste for most people, but, I need the actual processing power for some 3D rendering and
run a Vive off it, Alex. Play Batman.
Did they update? Yeah, only if you're running Windows. Did they update the SSD? Is it NVMe? It's NVMe.
Same now, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. PCIe still though.
But I will say again, I mean, using spinning drives is just absurd.
Oh, it's great. Oh no,
I
haven't bought a spinning drive in years. Even my Raids, my Drobo has an SSD in it.
And it's 10-bit to the timing controller, so it can dither to a billion colors, which is really nice. Because sometimes when you have a deep color, you see banding you wouldn't see on a lower depth display.
Yeah,
right.
So it just looks really nice.
Actually, I should make my pick because it just came out today. The new Drobo.
The new Drobo.
Yeah, this way they're a sponsor. A disclaimer, but you should. There's a new Drobo 5D3 Thunderbolt 3. You have Thunderbolt 3 on that 5K, right?
I do.
Yeah, 5-bay Thunderbolt 3. So you're gonna. And this is what you need for your video, right?
Yep.
Because you only have a terabyte internal drive. You need something with a lot of storage.
I'm smelling smoke. I think it's coming from my pocket.
Let's see. You get 6 4-terabyte drives in there, and 6 by 4. Yeah, 24 terabytes. That should be enough for you, Alex.
For now.
For now. For now. I don't know how they get 6. They must mean 4. Yeah,
and you've have you used it?
No, it just came out literally today.
Oh, okay.
So I haven't used it, but maybe Drobo will hear this and send us one. I use the Drobo Mini on my iMac because really I think that's a smart thing to do in general is to not load up the internal drive, have enough there for your apps and your operating system, and then because you got Thunderbolt, which is extremely fast. Use a giant. So I have a Drobo Thunderbolt giant Drobo. It's Thunderbolt 2 because it's the older 5K Drobo Mini with 4 solid-state drives and the MSAT accelerator, and that's nice. That's a sweet.
APFS
setup.
is better with Fusion drives, but I would still never go back from SSD.
Yeah. Is it? Oh, you mean it's Fusion drives? You say it the other way around. Fusion drives are better now with APFS.
Yes, because it's smarter about it. It can actually see it at a block level, so it can, for example, put all the metadata on the SSD and then put just the data on the platters, so that it can access things much faster.
But APFS also is great for SSDs, and I imagine SSDs will also be better with APFS. So. How about your pick of the week, Mr. Rene Ritchie?
So mine, utterly predictable. They had what probably is the biggest Pokemon Go update ever this week. And there's a couple really interesting things about it. The first one is just a gym update. Yeah. And what they did with gyms is they basically said, if you have really powerful Pokemon, we're going to hurt them bad for you. So you're going to want to put lower powered Pokemon in there, which makes it more accessible to people who are just casual players. And the whole system's changed. So now it's really easy to take down a gym. You get coins faster. So it really made it more accessible to people who don't play all the time and have like super high level characters. So just in general, it's more approachable. But they added this thing called battle raids, which are really cool. So if you're playing the game, you'll get a notification saying battle raids are about to start. And then the gym goes down and a boss goes up on the gym, and up to 20 people at a time can take on this gym. And it sounds goofy, but I live in a pretty small suburb of Montreal, and we had 27 people at one just the other day. We had to take turns going after it. And every day there's people, especially people are organizing on Facebook groups for the big ones, the ones that are tier 4 gyms, which are the really powerful Pokemon. There's groups of 5, 10, 15 people showing up, and they got rid of the teams for that. So it doesn't matter if you're red or blue or yellow. Everyone's fighting together to try to beat the boss. And that's led to a whole bunch. I've met, even on the weekend when I was just trying to figure out how it all worked, I met 30, 40 people I'd never met before, because our neighborhoods in the suburbs are so spread out and we just never crossed paths. And everyone was working together. They were there with their kids, because kids could join in because there were people with more powerful accounts and they could just sort of ride along with them and have their fun too. And it was really great. And it adds a new dimension to the game. And it'll probably be a way that they do special events going forward. Like they're going to have Pokemon Go Fest in Chicago soon, and they'll probably do a bunch of stuff around that. So just in general, if you haven't looked at Pokemon Go lately and you're afraid that you got stuck behind, none of that really matters anymore. Anyone can enjoy the game. They can enjoy going out, walking in the park, having fun, getting gyms, fighting in raids. All of that is great. The only thing I'll advise, because raids especially are only from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. because they don't want to create noise and encourage people to trespass at night or anything, break park curfews or anything like that. Is just really hella hot in some places during the day. And make sure you have like sunglasses and hats and water and all of that kind of stuff, because you can quickly, as I have personally discovered, get heat exhaustion if you're not well prepared to survive out of your nerd confines.
Well, it's funny because this is the 1 year anniversary next month, right, of the initial release.
That's what they're going to have. And there's rumors they'll have like the legendaries and mythical Pokemons come out for the first time using the boss battles as a mechanic for it. So, it was Sunday. There was like 4 on the row along the waterfront. So a bunch of us could just walk down the lakes front and we fought in a raid, went around for a little while, talked, did the next one, and we walked like a mile or something in a very short period of time, doing one to the other. And it doesn't even feel like exercise anymore. It's just a lot of fun.
So you just get it automatically?
Yeah, it's all. You might have to update your app if you haven't updated it in a while. But once it's there, you'll just get the new gyms. And the gyms, it's much more approachable. Like you have to have different Pokemon, so there's a lot more variety. And they have little heart meters now, so you can feed them berries and get reward. It's a lot more engaging for casual players.
It took them a long time, but it's about time. This is a much needed update. That's good.
Yeah, they were victims of their own success initially. Those servers were not prepared for.
Yeah. Now I've fired it up. I'm gonna have to play. Oh yeah, I can see already. Yeah, I must have the new one because the gym looks different. Yeah. Wow, that's cool. Ooh, this is going to be fun.
Yeah. Your first raid battle with Lisa is going to be epic.
Yeah. Somebody's made the butter and eggs day parade at gym.
Nice.
That's great.
Mr. Andy Anatko, your pick of the week.
I got a tip and a pick. If you're eating fruit, I'm trying to. I'm not a fruit-oriented sort of omnivore. But yes, you have to peel off these little stickers before you eat them. I don't know if they're edible. I don't want to find out. But don't just throw them away. They actually have a really good use, as I've discovered over the past month. They make really, really good like privacy stickers for your camera, the camera on a device. So because they peel off really easily and you can put them right back on. And so I will not operate like any sort of anything other than a phone. I will block the camera just in case, because I don't know, especially now that I have a Windows machine. It's like I don't really trust that camera not to be hijacked by somebody. And so I've been finding lots of uses for these as it's summer and I've been eating more fruit. And now these are like all over wherever I snack. There's one of these like stuck to a monitor and stuck to a keyboard. And I just peeled this off of this little box that I keep SD cards in. But I seem to keep finding uses for like low tech, colorful stickers. That's my technology related tip. My pick though is the Met Opera In Demand app. So Metropolitan Opera has not just like all of their best shows over the past 20, 30, 40, sometimes going even back 50 years. And it's their own little channel that you can get on Roku or on Apple TV or on your iOS device. It costs $15 a month. And if you want to get in, if you've always been sort of tempted to get into opera, wow, is that a cheap way to start to get into it? Because the first week is free. So pick one opera, again, for the past 20 or 30 years, and they have had every single star of opera doing some of their best work and some of the best productions in the world of some of the best operas ever written. And so take your free seven-day trial, pick an opera that you want to go see, watch it in HD. There's subtitles, so you can just read along. It also helps if you kind of just read the libretto, just read the story beforehand so you know what's going on. And you'll say, okay, well, I'll cancel it after a month, and then it's 3 months later, and you've got like Thursday night is opera night every week. So it's such a great recommendation. I did get it because a few months ago, because somebody had illegally posted a certain opera onto YouTube, and I felt guilty about not paying for it, and I couldn't buy it on Blu-ray. So I said, okay, I'll subscribe to Met Opera in HD for a month to sort of cleanse my soul, and I'm still watching it every week. And the side pocket sort of recommendation is on Sunday, general tickets for the 2017-2018 season of the Met Opera went on sale. It starts in late September, goes through May of 2018. And if you're going to be in New York anytime during that period, check out the website, go to metopera.org. Check out what's going to be available on one of the nights that you're going. You'll be really, really surprised. I went to my first opera at the Met about 3 or 4 or 5 years ago, assuming that I'd be kicked out for being obvious riffraff, but they're happy with riffraff.
They want more riffraff.
They don't. I mean, they don't. They don't put on any
riffraff.
They do so much outreach to make opera accessible to everybody. I really admire the way they go about it. And the Metropolitan Opera House, it's a barn. It's got thousands of seats, and they will they want to fill those seats rather than let them go empty. So yes, you can get the best seats in the house, cost about $400, but you can buy in advance tickets that cost $30, $40. And yes, those are like higher on the upper tiers, but the music fills the entire house, and you can still see the auditorium, and it's way, way cheaper than any ticket you're going to get on Broadway, even at half price. And the production values, you will see you'll have a full live orchestra underneath you. You will have a cast of like 30 people, a huge set that takes immense amount of labor in order to put in and to switch from scene after scene. I will say that if you go to the site at metopera.org, I'll give you the advice that I'm following as I'm sort of eyeing certain tickets as I'm traveling. Anything with Joyce DiDonato is on it. She's in 2 different productions. Kathleen Kim, which is another soprano that I've been really looking for an opportunity to see. Actually, DiDonato and Kim are in a production of Cinderella in April or May. Vittorio Grigio is an amazing tenor that I've seen twice now, and he's on that list of if I happen to be in town on business, I'm going to definitely see if at 12:01 p.m. to see if I can get $25 last minute rush seats, because that's another thing they do. I've gotten like $200 seats in the orchestra for $25 damn dollars, because if there are seats available, they release them at like 12:01 p.m. on the website. You can go buy them. So it's definitely worth doing once. If you're going to be in New York City, it's less than what it costs to go to the Empire State Building or the top of the Rock. So many things that cost a lot more than $25 or $30 and do not include 40 people on stage, 3 world-class professionals who have been studying 15 years before they did this performance even once, and one of the most beautiful sites you can be in New York City. So definitely check it out. It's definitely worth doing at least once. If you don't become a fan after once, that's fine. And the last thing I need to remind you of. The seat backs at the Metropolitan Opera House each has a tiny little LCD screen, so that there are English subtitles as they're singing. You can turn on and off, so that you have, if you've ever watched a foreign movie, you'll have no problem following the story watching it. So high recommendation. If you've got $30 in your pocket, you should see the Metropolitan Opera at least once. If you've got $15 in your pocket and you're curious, check out this app for a month, and you'll find that it's not something that you'll be dismissing the reminder that you set for yourself every month to make sure you cancel this thing you signed up for. No, maybe I'll give it one more month, because I think the last season stuff is going to start to drop.
And if you're going to go see your first opera, pick something that's a little bit of a crowd favorite, because there are operas that are avant-garde, modern operas. There's that can be a little off-putting.
Lucia de Lammermoor is really hard. You will be crying at the end of it. However, they had Julie Taymor, who was the famous Broadway director. She did The Producers. She did The Lion King. They commissioned from her a production of The Magic Flute that is intentionally designed to be accessible. It's in English, not in German. It's about 90 minutes long, so kids can maybe even sit through the entire thing. So it's not necessarily the greatest version of the Magic Flute ever done, but it is a really good intro, and it's running from September 27th to October 14th.
I think that's a
Tickets
great opera.
$25.
I took Lisa and her son Michael's 14 to the Magic Flute, because that opera is traditionally considered a great one, especially for kids.
It's pantomime, right? It starts off with a giant snake being operated by 18 puppeteers attacking a prince. Oh my God! Opening scene, and this is an opera.
Unfortunately, the San Francisco Opera decided to do an avant-garde presentation of it, and it was a little off-putting for them. But I think this Julie Taymor sounds like a very good one. Yeah. She knows how to make something really pop. And then the Barber of Seville is very easy and light and fun. There's some great fun operas that would be a good one to start with. Don't start with Götterdämmerung, the Ring Cycle. That would probably not be.
They don't do a lot of Wagnerian opera. They do a lot of like Tales of Hoffmann.
There you go.
Which the opening act is the opening story is the poet falls in love with a robot.
Yeah,
and it was written in the 1890s. There you go.
Yeah, they had robots back then. Interesting. That concludes this thrilling, gripping edition, minus the singing of MacBreak Weekly. It was all libretto. You can add the music later.
I was going to say the common opera simile about when something is over, but then I realized that it's kind of a sexist.
The Viking sings.
Yes.
You need a leitmotif, Andy. Some song, some theme that plays whenever you walk.
I'm disappointed because I'm a baritone, and all the great arias go to tenors. We get to play Zarastro. We get to play the uncle that tells Violetta, "Please let my son Alfredo alone." We don't get the cool. Oh, I'm a prince. I'm going to save the world, and I'm optimistic. It's
oh sigh. Andy Anako's at the Chicago Sun-Times when he's not at the Metropolitan Opera. And you can find his blog at cwob.com, and he's on the Twitter at IHNATKO. Don't forget Andy I on the Flickr, too. Great photos. Always a pleasure.
Thanks.
Mr. Rene Ritchie, you'll find him at imore.com, where he has written fabulous articles about Pokemon Go and others.
iOS 11.
And I
didn't ignore it.
Oh, yeah, that.
Oh, and our new homepage is finally live, Leo. You've been asking me for weeks, and it's finally live.
Let me go look at it. imore.com.
Very yellow.
It's yellow's the new black. Orange is the new black. But yellow is the new orange. So there.
Yes.
Well, nice. Very nice. Like it.
Yeah.
Very pretty. Very nice.
Thank you. The design team did all the hard work. I just get to sit here and say.
Yeah, I like this font choice too, the headline font.
Oh, thank you.
What is that?
I'll have to look it up. I don't remember.
It's
something
really,
slab.
Yeah, it's really nice. That's fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of friendly and fun, but clear. It's really good.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Alex Lindsay, he's at the Pixel Core, busy. But I tell you what, if you follow him on Twitter, AlexLindsay, occasionally he'll do public events, on Final Cut Pro and stuff, and it's worth following him to know.
I'm actually committing myself to doing more get-togethers. So I travel a lot, and a lot of times I can't. So I'm trying to extend my stays a little bit and get to, we're especially looking for production people, usually in the cities.
Like meetups and stuff.
Meetups, yeah. So we're going to do more of those throughout the summer and fall. So it'd be good. And every once in a while, you'll just have me, I think my last tweet was not nearly as useful. It was just me talking about the fact that my kids were watching Redneck.
I saw that.
Redneck Fails. And they were like, Dad, did you ever do any of this stuff? Because they've seen where I grew up. And I was like, yeah. To those, I was like,
that's why they call his Uncle Bert Three Fingers Lindsay. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. I look back and I don't even know how I survived. I look at how worried I am about my kids. I'm like, when I was their age, I was,
I had a friend who grew up in the country, and he did have an Uncle Bert who was the fireworks king. They had so much fun, they'd set up bleachers in the cornfield, so the whole family can get together and watch as Bert blew things up, sometimes little bits of himself as well.
That was my childhood.
Did it involve
big
cannon
and
I
made a lot of homemade stuff, but on big occasions, we would get the license, and I would get 4-inch mortars, which were fun.
Mortars are the awesomest.
Yeah, they were great. So just don't put your head over when you're lighting.
No. Did you do that once?
I got close. It went off a little faster than I expected. Yeah. So, but I only lost a little hair. Yeah. Obviously, I'm still not a lot gone here, So yeah.
Yeah, but just now you know why he never turns his head to the left. We do MacBreak Weekly every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. That would be 1800 UTC if you want to come by and say hi. As I mentioned, come a little early. You'll see iOS Today because we start that show on Tuesday now. And you can also join us in the chat room. We love having you at irc.twit.tv. But if you can't do that, and I know, people have jobs and lives, don't worry. Everything we do is available on demand, audio and video. In this case, twit.tv/MBW. But you know what you really should do? Whatever app you use to listen to podcasts, go there, search for MacBreak Weekly, and subscribe. Subscribe to the audio or the video feed, and that way you'll never miss an episode. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time. But now I'm afraid, my friends, I must tell you, it is time to get back to work because break time is over.